6 miles to Chicago. We got a full tank of gas, half a pack of cigarettes. It's dark, and we're wearing sunglasses. Hit it.
Are we on?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Jerry's got gremlins again. We're trying to track him down, but I think I'm hoping that it's going to be better for the rest of the stream. How are you? Oh, he dropped out completely. Well, welcome to another eventful Friday, Chicago Corner Pizza Friday. It is, just so you know, it's Pizza de Mayo, which is a week after Cinco de Mayo. So, of course, I had to make a pizza. I'm sure Jerry has one on the way. It sounds like Jerry's got a technical issue he's trying to iron out, but I want to thank you all for joining us today. Jerry's hitting buttons, and I don't know why Willie keeps coming up on the screen, but that's awesome. So once again, thank you to all of our Patreons that we showed at the early part of the show. We had Dominic Palella, Kathy Powers, Dr. Howard Ehrman, Shane Coughlin, Luke Tremanis, and Derek Graham is our newest Patreon supporter. Thank you very much for supporting us. And Jerry, are you back?
I don't know. Am I?
You sound okay to me now.
I have no idea.
That was so weird.
I have no idea what happened if our open played because I could not see it.
It did.
It did play. So did it finish and the banner loaded and and I'm standing and I didn't know if it was on.
Yeah. It finished. We had a blank screen for a couple seconds. Then for some weird reason, Willie Wilson popped up on the screen. And then you were on camera with your microphone off for about 20, 30 seconds.
So you know what I just did to change all this? I just closed the StreamYard tab and relogged back in.
Oh.
And I guess it's okay now, even though I'm trying to share a screen and I'm getting the spinning beach ball of death again. I think I got to reinstall my Chrome, man. I've had it. Fresh reboot. We go through this every goddamn show. Hey, everybody, you want to donate to me so I can buy a new Mac? That would be fantastic.
Yeah, and if you're going to donate to him to buy a new Mac, you might as well buy us too.
Yeah, buy us too.
Well, that's okay because I got your back tonight, Jerry. I got all the show note stuff up on tabs here. I can bring stuff up on the screen for you if that'll help.
Ed's always got my back covered. Thank you, Ed. Quick question. Where was I going with this? I just completely lost my train of thought. Oh, yeah. So you got my back covered. So this is what happens when you've got a huge news week, everybody. Because even while I had the show ready, around 7 o'clock, more news was coming in. Ed was sharing more updates in the Slack. And I'm like, oh, my God, there's more to cover. Because at the last minute, on her last day in office, Lori Lightfoot decided to implement a bunch of executive orders on her last day in office. So this is how I wanted to start the show. So why don't I really quickly, do I dare press it and see what happens?
Well, I got it on the screen for you.
Yeah, no, hit the breaking news video.
Oh, okay. Let me find that thing. Where did we put that? Oh, here we go. Do we have a delay now, too? I got Jerry muted right now. I'm not really sure what's what. Okay, you're unmuted now. That is so weird. It's like StreamYard is jacking with you.
Yeah. Every goddamn broadcast now. This has been getting, progressively worse. I'll have to look into it. So, first of all, welcome to Chicago Corner, everybody. I'm your host with the shitty computer, Jerry Vasilatos, joined as always by my venerable co-host, Mr. Edward Heller.
With an equally shitty computer.
Has it been? And by the way, did you go ahead and share with people that it was Pizza de Mayo?
Yes, I did. And getting a start on that. Oh, he's got his. Jerry's got his pizza for Pizza de Mayo, and I got mine. So we're officially the Pizza de Mayo channel of Chicago.
The Pizza Brothers. Because I have not eaten all goddamn day. We're getting shit together here.
Yeah.
So
Kathy is blaming Lori for your computer problems.
I wouldn't doubt it. All right. Here we go. What did she do on her last day of office, along with her redemption bus tour across the city, which we'll get to in a moment? She decided to sign a slate of executive orders on her last day. This comes from NBC5 Chicago via Charlie Wojciechowski. I think I pronounced that right.
Wojciechowski.
Before she left her fifth floor office for the last time, Mayor Lori Lightfoot signed a volley of executive orders on Friday, including those establishing youth commissions and pension advance funds, as well as ensuring the implementation of a We Will Chicago plan. My question is, why did she wait till her last day in office to implement these executive orders, which are apparently important to her? I think I'm going to use the word we always use all the time. It's performative. She wanted to make it look like she left some kind of a legacy here on her last day, when it's just more empty platitudes, because if this stuff was all important, it should have been implemented a long time ago. On the night she claimed victory 4 years ago, Lightfoot vowed to break the city's endless cycle of corruption. By the way, this being Lori Lightfoot's last day, I'm calling this Last Licks Friday. Okay? Because she's gone. Thank Christ. Thank God above. She's gone at last. But, everything this week was punctual. I mean, she made this a big news week. She just couldn't go off quietly. All of our news that was coming in had to do with her last week and this stuff. On that point, a former alderman, political science professor, and author of an upcoming book on Chicago's mayors gives her high marks. I think there are 3 things for which Lori Lightfoot will be remembered, said Dick Simpson. What a perfect first name. The first is ending aldermanic privilege and bringing corruption down at City Hall. Did she? Is this
No.
because of the aldermen that the incumbents who decided not to run again? I think a lot of them didn't run again because they saw the writing on the wall that she was on her way out, and they wouldn't be able to continue brown nosing with her in all the corruption that they were engaged in for her and the elites, not the citizens they're supposed to represent. But that's just my own speculation. Simpson, one of Chicago's original progressive aldermen, also gave Lightfoot credit for refocusing the city's lens on issues relating to equity and inclusion. How can this guy call himself one of Chicago's original? How can NBC5 call him one of Chicago's original progressive aldermen when Lightfoot and these issues that these are the buzzwords this week. She used this at her farewell celebration, the equity she brought to the city. There was no equity brought to the city through her at all. These are just buzzwords that she's using on her way out to make it look like she did something. Because you know what, Ed, as we said previously, if she really accomplished anything, she wouldn't have been voted out.
Mm-hmm.
In her farewell speech earlier this week, the outgoing mayor said her administration had been victorious in its efforts to be equitable in serving the city. Simpson also said Lightfoot and Dr. Allison Arwady, Chicago's public health commissioner, had served the city well during the pandemic that unexpectedly afflicted Chicago during her term. They saved thousands and thousands of lives that would have been lost had there not been a firm hand at City Hall, he said. That's Lightfoot
debatable.
Yeah, very. As Lightfoot left office for the final time on Friday, Simpson said she left something else behind, a new way of doing business, as well as an independent, reinvigorated city council. Yeah, because of all the incumbents that left and all the new blood that came in to declare that the party's over, as Angela Clay shared with our patron, Kathy Powers. The city is, quote, much, much better than when Lightfoot came into office, Simpson said. Gaslighting anyone?
Uh-huh.
She will be remembered as one of the really good, effective mayors that changed the direction of Chicago politics and Chicago government. The professor's grade on Lightfoot's 4 years in office is an A-. Now, it's interesting as we're looking at this article, the slate of executive orders, they mention it in the first paragraph, and they don't go into any detail in this article on what these final executive orders are actually going to do, aside from naming what they were. Establishing youth commissions and pension advance funds, as well as ensuring the implementation of a We Will Chicago plan. Why isn't NBC5 going into more detail, examining what these executive orders are going to entail and what they're going to do? Instead, it's a big, fat, wet, sloppy kiss on her ass as she heads out the door, is all I'm reading in this article, because that's where it ends. The professor's grade on Lightfoot's 4 years in office is an A-.
Jerry, I just wanted to add to that last comment that's from Simpson, where it says she will be remembered as one of the really good, effective mayors that changed the direction of Chicago politics and Chicago government. You know what also changed the direction of Chicago politics and Chicago government? A fire 150 some years ago.
That's true.
You don't give the fire credit for making the city better.
No, and I'd also say, where she's guided us is into a fucking ditch, is where she's guided us.
Except for my triple bean casino, it's going to be glorious.
Oh, God, it's going to be a disaster. A disaster. Let's take a look in the live chat here and see what's going on. Everybody, welcome. Apologies again for our technical difficulties. Let's see who's chimed in. Kathy asked, will she become an ambassador like Ambassador Fuckface? Inquiring minds want to know. Now, she hasn't announced what she's doing next, aside from spending time with her family.
I had posited perhaps ambassador to Munchkin Land.
Yeah. Her legacy is raising bridges, closing beaches, unseen police raids, and, of course, NASCAR. Wait a minute. NASCAR, Kathy? NASCAR?
Ambassador to NASCAR?
Did somebody say NASCAR?
Jean-Baptiste Point du Sable Drive. Jean-Baptiste Point du Sable Drive. Jean-Baptiste Point du Sable Drive.
Just screaming. Water on the driving side. Concrete mountains wearing off from shadows just about fine. Sometimes you can smell the green if your mind is feeling fine. There ain't no finer place to be.
Jean-Baptiste Point du Sable Drive. Jean-Baptiste Point du Sable Drive. Jean-Baptiste Point du Sable Drive.
This
Watch the tube.
It's Friday night and you're looking too early to start the rounds. Probably have right from the goes back, make you show your pleasure bound. And it's 4 o'clock in the morning and all the people have gone away. Just you and your mind.
Jean-Baptiste Point du Sable Drive.
Gonna catch us. We're missing from God. Always another day. There ain't no road just like it. Anywhere I found. Running south on.
Jean-Baptiste Point du Sable Drive. Jean-Baptiste Point du Sable Drive.
I don't remember this bit being this long, Jerry. I am victorious.
Wow. Wait, hold on, Jerry. Your mic's muted.
For those that missed it when we played it last year, yeah, that video was long, like her term in office.
Very long.
All right. So anyway, so she signed her slate of executive orders. We'll get more into Lori in a little bit, but there was a very important press conference that was presented yesterday morning, which we could not attend. However, our friend of the show, Kathy Powers, was there and covered video of the People's Response Network and proposing the ordinance to rebuild and restructure Chicago's public system. And the proposal was presented by our other patron, Dr. Howard Ehrman. So I'm going to let Ed cue the video and play that, and we'll talk a little bit about the proposal. And I want to thank Kathy for sharing this information with us. And I want to thank the People's Response Network, because they're on the ground doing stuff in the field, as we say, to shine light on the important issues and policies that all of our public leaders, our elected representatives, should be focused on. And no doubt, hopefully, Mayor-elect Brandon Johnson will pay attention to, and I'm hoping that he had eyes on this also. So Ed, why don't we show the video?
Okay. Before I hit the play button, I just want to let you know there's a little bit of noise in the background, and Kathy was kind enough to share a link to the ordinance document so the rest of you can read it too. So I'm going to be posting that into the live chat, and I'm sharing that with Jerry. So if he wants to add that to the show notes later, he can.
I will. I was trying to open it in my private chat, Ed, and it's not opening. So I'm just going to stay here and look at the comments and ask you to cue videos, because StreamYard and my Chrome is just causing problems. So I'm going to let you push the buttons.
All right. So here we go.
HOWARDEHRMAN. Like those before me, we want to extend our hearty congratulations to Mayor-elect Brandon Johnson. As a father, as a teacher, as an organizer, this is a historic moment for the city of Chicago. I was fortunate enough to be appointed by Mayor Washington to be the Assistant Health Commissioner, and I want to explain why what those before me have said is so important. In 1989, when Mayor Richard M. Daley took office and I was standing 10 feet away from him in his first press conference, he said, in quotes, "There are too many poor people in Chicago." And he, followed by Emanuel, followed by Lightfoot, have all together done their best to push more black and brown people out of the city than any other city in the United States. We have lost almost 300,000 African Americans by the greatest destruction of public housing in the United States in history, 25,000 units, most of whom have not been replaced, with families still living in Des Moines, Iowa, the Quad Cities, Rockford, and many other cities waiting to get their new apartment with their letter from the CHA from 25 to 30 years ago. No city closed more public schools. No city decreased the number of buses 20% in 1997 and cut the 24/7 train service on all the train lines except for the blue line. And no city devastated.
Sounds like NASCAR started early.
In 1989, on the first day that Mayor Daley took office, the Department of Public Health had 57 facilities. Now we have 13, including the difference between 19 mental health centers in 1989 and 5. We stand in complete unity with all those, including the new mayor-elect, who we are sure is going to pass and fund treatment on trauma so that mental health workers can be sent out in crises without the police. There were 2,000 employees in the Chicago Park Public Health in 1989. Now there's approximately 600. Chicago
That helps, Ed. Thanks.
In 2019, the year before COVID. Before that, we had measles outbreaks. Why is that?
Before COVID?
The immunization rate in our children is still below what it has to be. So this new ordinance deals with all those issues. And when people say, where's the money? Our new mayor-elect, Brandon Johnson, and others have identified where the money has to come from. The rich have to pay their share. Google, United Airlines, Amazon, McDonald's have to pay, and the CME over here on the South Street have to pay a head tax and a financial transaction tax, and the wealthy who sell their multi-million-dollar homes have to pay a tax on that. There are many ways to raise this money, not just for the Department of Health, but for all human needs. So what is this ordinance going to do? Number one, it will put Chicago as the only city in the United States where every public school becomes a vaccine for children center through the existing city of Chicago public health nurses and, of course, a school nurse, which by the contract in CTU 1, by next year, every school will have a full-time school nurse. What does that mean? It means that contrary to what happened under COVID, no child will have to leave their school or even their classroom to get any vaccines they need. Vaccines that are required and/or vaccines that are needed. Number two.
Hey, Ed, the sound is a little difficult. Maybe we should just read from the press release. Yeah, I mean, we basically.
It's really hard to hear.
I wanted to give Dr. Ehrman some airtime because what he and People's Response Network do is vital and important and appreciated. And Kathy, thank you for taking that video. I would also ask all of our viewers, if you want to prepare a video or present or share a video with the program, if you're out in the field doing stuff and are acting as our what do we want to call it? Our
citizen video.
Yeah. Instead of shooting like this, do this. Because it will fill the screen instead of going like this. It'll just be better to present. So yeah, all of our citizen contributory journalists, if you could, when you shoot video, and we appreciate when you do, just turn your phones around and do it landscape, not portrait. But Ed, since I can't open this link on this end, you want to share? Let's read.
That's why I'm downloading the PDF right now.
All right.
So I can drop that into the Slack.
I'm going to let Ed read from it.
Yeah. So hang on a minute.
The public health ordinance summary.
All right. Just hang on a minute. I just doing a little house cleaning here.
I'm going to start reading from it.
Okay, I got it, Jerry. It's the Rebuild the Chicago Department of Public Health Ordinance Summary from the People's Response Network. Okay. Since 1989, 2 years after Mayor Harold Washington's untimely death, CDPH has gone from 2,000 employees and 57 facilities in 1989 to 600 employees and 13 facilities today.
Unbelievable how they've just gutted the system.
In the last 34 years, the CDPH has gone from 19 mental health clinics to 5.
Oh, well, that was thanks to Rom Fuckface Emanuel.
Yeah. CDPH eliminated all 7 neighborhood health centers and has severely cut back and privatized its STD HIV program. CDPH is not prepared for the next pandemic, heat wave, or other climate disasters. Due to public health nurse cuts, its immunization and infant maternal health programs are a shadow of themselves compared to 30 years ago, despite the fact that the Chicago infant death rate is among the worst in the country, especially among Black African-American infants. Chicago school children have inadequate levels of immunizations, especially for measles. No other city, county, or state public health department has been as devastated, downsized, cut back, and privatized as CDPH. Only 7% of the 2022 to 2023 CDPH total budget is funded by the city corporate budget. The rest is in
unbelievable. 7% with a TIF slush fund as large as we don't know it is. Only 7%, and the rest relies on grants after they gutted the system that's supposed to serve all of you.
Yeah, so I'm going to skip to the next paragraph. The ordinance. The City of Chicago Department of Public Health, in cooperation with Chicago Public Schools and local grassroots community-led organizations, would establish public health teams, PHTs, stations, and programs in underutilized CPS schools and the surrounding communities, prioritizing Chicago's 26 COVID-19 high vulnerability community areas and neighborhoods with the greatest health disparities. Priority hiring would be among neighborhood residents. Each fully equipped station would include a team of CDPH public health nurses, nursing assistants, community health workers, communicable disease investigators, environmental and building inspectors, health educators, and mental health workers in a designated space in each school accessible to students, staff, teachers, and families. CDPH would work with CPS to become a vaccine for children provider so any student can get any vaccine in their school. I would assume with parents' permission. Non-school affiliated residents would be welcome in areas of the school during times that do not interfere with regular school activities. All right, so if you want to read more of this, I'm going to actually post to a Google Doc link that we can share, because the OneDrive link that Kathy gave us is, I think it's password linked and it's a really long link. So if you hang on a second, I will get a link up in the that is shareable for all of you.
Chicago's pizza is great, along with Ed's homemade pizza, which I unfortunately can't enjoy tonight.
Yeah, but he got to have it the other week, so he's good.
You know, by the way, while Ed gets this this link up for everybody to go check out, and again, thank you, Dr. Ehrman and People's Response Network and Kathy Powers for sharing this news information with us. This is what we're always asking our viewers to do. Share stuff happening on the streets so we can share it here on Chicago Corner. And this is a perfect example. While we couldn't be there, really appreciate the effort by Kathy covering it and the initiative shown by People's Response Network to present this to the city as well as Mayor-elect Brandon Johnson. Do you know that we now have a sponsor, Ed?
We have a sponsor, Jerry?
We have a sponsor. And you know what? I'm going to run their promo.
Are you a cane or crutch user seeking greater support on the beach, golfing, gardening, or going up or down stairs? How about a tip that freestands both canes and crutches when not in use? Regular cane and crutch tips won't work on all surfaces. You've tried the rest, now get the best. Introducing the Easy Walk by Sandpad Brands, the only cane and crutch pad providing stability on sand, grass, snow, mud, rocky terrain, as well as regular paved surfaces.
I have it. Where's the? Oh, I'm in the wrong place.
So I hope nobody out there is reliant on canes or crutches as I am. But if you are, with summer coming, to enhance your mobility, please check out easywalkpads.com. Grab an Easy Walk sand pad and enhance and provide more support for yourself during your recreational activities.
All right, cool. I just posted a Google Drive link to the PDF version of this ordinance summary. And so all of you can use that link to take a look at the rest of the text of that ordinance presented from Dr. Howard Ehrman.
Perfect. All right, let's move into our next story. If you've got this queued up, Ed. God, you want to talk about deja vu. Weren't we just talking about this, I think a week ago? And lo and behold, the Chicago Sun-Times basically expounded on our hypothesis or question, why isn't the city using the space at McCormick Place to help the migrants? Or use all of the resources that they had put into McCormick Place at the beginning of COVID in 2020 to help serve the migrants instead of putting them in schools and spending more money. Now, I want to thank constitutional conservative Lou Kutramanis, who shared this story with me earlier today. So it came across my radar and reported by the Chicago Sun-Times and Frank Main and Tina Spondelis. More than 1,200 beds from McCormick Place COVID-19 temporary hospital go unused amid the immigrant housing crisis. As we shared a week ago, or Tuesday, maybe was it Tuesday or Friday? I lose track. This should have been their go-to.
Yeah.
They claim they need more resources, they need more money. Yet, as this article shares, the city kept 126 beds but isn't using them. The state has 1,125 more beds from the makeshift hospital, but says the city hasn't asked for them.
Why not?
Because she was too busy doing a bus tour to try to salvage what's left of her useless reputation, which we'll get to in a few stories on. And the city is missing out on $30 million from Springfield to support immigrants. Can you scroll up so we can see that picture?
Oh, yeah.
Mayor Lori Lightfoot and Governor J.B. Pritzker stood together in April of 2020. I remember this. So clearly because we were all scared out of our wits as far as like the body count and what was happening at the beginning of the pandemic. And to see that. Yeah,
because Delta was no joke. It really wasn't.
And to see them implement this was just like, oh my God, it's going to be like something out of a horror movie. The body bags piling up, right? This was one of the pictures we saw back then. But it's one of the things that I think we commented on that we gave the mayor and Pritzker a lot of credit for. Yeah. Because when we saw them jump into action, it's like, this is what we want our elected representatives and leaders to do.
It's like, when you're facing basically the unknown a lot of local state and local leaders, they didn't know what to make of this thing. And so it's fair to say, they tried to trust in authoritative sources to get the best information they could. And if you didn't know what was coming, this was a pretty good response.
It was a perfect response. And I'm going to give Lightfoot and Pritzker, a lot of credit where credit is due. This was a moment where they both stood up and showed leadership and I think provided some kind of planning in regards to what lay ahead that we didn't know was going to happen. And you know what? Let's be clear. The bodies did pile up, unfortunately, because during this pandemic, the virus of unknown origin, Wuhan labs, unexpected lab leak. That's what we now know and sense and suspect and speculate it was all about. But at the time, we were scared out of our minds. So Lightfoot and Pritzker had done the right thing with all this space at McCormick Place since it was shut down. Mayor Lightfoot and Governor Pritzker stood together in April of 2020 at the start of the coronavirus pandemic to showcase the rapid transformation of an empty convention hall at McCormick Place East into a medical facility with 500 beds and 2,500 more to be installed later. And that facility sat there for a while.
Yeah.
I don't know how much it was used, but I remember it was there for a while in preparation for the unknown and what people were scared for. It turned out the makeshift COVID-19 hospital wasn't needed because existing hospitals were able, after all, to meet the demands of treating coronavirus patients. So the beds were moved to warehouses and the facility was dismantled as quickly as it was set up. Now, with at least 8,500 refugees from Latin America having been transported to Chicago from Texas since last August, in a political tug of war over national immigration policy, those beds are available for use in temporary shelters. The city kept 126 full-size beds from the McCormick Place Temporary Hospital. City officials say it would be difficult to set them up quickly because the beds include a mattress, headboard, footboard, bed frame, and no linens. They didn't have any problems setting them up back in 2020.
Yeah.
What's the excuse now?
What's the difference in labor between then and now?
If anything, there's more labor available given the fact that people aren't holed up at home scared out of their minds.
Yeah.
That they're going to, catch something and drop dead. Instead, the Lightfoot administration chose to send cots for immigrants to sleep on at temporary shelters because they're easy to deploy and set up during an emergency, according to Mary May, a spokeswoman for the city's Office of Emergency Management and Communications. What do you want? Are you kissing me? No, he's probably licking pizza off my chin.
He's like, give me pizza.
What did you just do? You bit me? At this time, it is simply not as practical. This is just astonishing. Ed, at this time, it is simply not as practical to use the limited number of beds we have in storage. Why?
Not practical for who?
She just went and released all these executive orders today. She couldn't, with the swipe of her pen, say, get these beds out of storage, get them into an open facility. I'm not going to force these migrants to sit in park warming centers, which are inhumane. That's what she could have done. Performative executive orders that accomplish nothing in the moment.
Oh, speaking of that, actually, Jerry, can we take a break from this really quick? Because I want to take a minute and a half to just remind everybody how completely unaware Lori Lightfoot is.
Okay, but let me let's finish the story here before we go to that.
Please.
Okay, yeah, I want to. All right, go.
Bagpipes, Jerry. Bagpipes. I'm sorry, I just needed a bagpipe break.
Next time we wait, because I'm losing track of the narrative of the story.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, so Mary May, a spokeswoman for the city's Office of Emergency Management and Communications, stated at this time, it's simply not as practical to use the limited number of beds we have in storage. And as Ed shared, she, I guess, was too busy having a bagpipe celebration for herself instead of signing an executive order to make it practical. That's drawing criticism from Alderman Byron Sigcho Lopez of the 25th. One of the biggest things we need are beds, Sigcho Lopez said. We can certainly use them. Can you scroll up to Pritzker and Lightfoot?
Yes.
Scroll down. The state has kept 750 quick beds and 375 hospital beds from the McCormick Place Field Hospital, according to Kevin Sir, a spokesman for the Illinois Emergency Management Agency and Office of Homeland Security. A quick bed is a heavy, sturdy tubular metal frame bed. The hospital beds are powered to help position a patient for better care and recovery, he said. Sir said the state is willing to provide those beds to the city, but the city hasn't requested them. Sigcho Lopez said the fact that the city hasn't asked the state for the beds shows a lack of coordination between the city and the state. These are some of the resources that could be used to address this humanitarian crisis. They had months to plan for this, and they failed. He said he's been busy finding places. Do me a favor, Ed, as I'm like reading the article, you can scroll.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I've got it on.
That's what I need you to do.
Right,
yeah. Let's.
I've got it open on 2 tabs so I can follow, and I didn't realize that we got.
You don't have to follow the read since I'm following. Yeah, just help me with like providing visuals for the audience.
Otherwise, I can't. I have to read.
Okay. Sigcho Lopez said the fact that the city hasn't asked the state for the beds shows a lack of coordination between the city and the state. These are some of the resources that could be used to address this humanitarian crisis. They had months to plan for this, and they failed. He said he's been busy finding places in this largely Latino ward on the southwest side to shelter the continuing stream of immigrants, many of them from Venezuela. Sigcho Lopez said he condemns the Republican governors in Texas and Florida for busing people to Illinois and other northern states and trying to gain politically on their suffering. But we have not seen leadership from Illinois to secure resources that are available to respond to this real crisis. He said he thinks the Lightfoot administration should have worked more closely with the mostly African-American South Shore and Woodlawn communities to explain the need for converting public spaces into shelters for the immigrants. Residents of those communities have opposed housing migrants in vacant public facilities in their neighborhoods. I understand the frustration, Sigcho Lopez said. He said he's trying to identify public facilities to house immigrants in his ward where many residents speak Spanish, saying they might be more amenable to having them staying in their communities. In her farewell speech Monday, Lightfoot didn't talk about the immigrant crisis, which for months has left some families sleeping on the floors of Chicago police stations without beds or showers as they wait for shelter. As of last week, more than 3,000 immigrants were being housed in temporary shelters. An Illinois Department of Human Services memo from April 30th detailed that the state has spent $150 million to support asylum workers. The state also received an additional $90 million that was allocated by the Illinois General Assembly in a supplemental budget in January, led by efforts of its Latino caucus. The $90 million went to support Cook County and the city to help asylum seekers, including $60.34 million for hotel shelter services. In addition to the $90 million allocation, the Pritzker administration agreed to give the city $20 million to support services for newly arrived immigrants. Soon after, the city asked for more, and state officials agreed to provide an additional $10 million, totaling $30 million. But we're putting them in park field houses with no showers, no reliable running water, and clearly not equipped to handle the 8,400 migrants that are arriving. But the total pot of $30 million the city can receive to support asylum seekers, City Hall hasn't provided any invoices, meaning Illinois can't dole out that money according to state officials. A spokesman for Mayor-elect Brandon Johnson said he would not comment until he takes office next week. The spokesman pointed to a written statement last week from Johnson in which he said, "What we will do day one is make sure there's a real effort to coordinate our resources at the federal, state, county, and city levels." Well, everybody, let's keep our fingers crossed that when Mayor-elect Johnson is sworn in Monday, and we're going to cover that on the Tuesday show, that he swiftly enacts policies to utilize all these funds that are sitting unused while Lightfoot was shipping people to field houses while this would have been the place to show the bagpipe celebration on her way out. So let's, I mean, this
we
is
can
just
jump into the chat for a second. We got Brian H. Welcome to the program. Thanks for watching. You're saying, no, we're not angry at border states for saying they have a crisis. Okay. Right. The situation is that instead of working together, instead of all the states and the federal resources working together to make sure that the migrants have the support they need, and to make sure all the states have the support they need to support them, that's what we need. It's not an us versus them. It's not states versus states. We're all in this together. That's what people still don't understand.
Yeah, Brian H. I also saw a comment from you earlier that was complaining about where was it? Let me scroll up. Chicagoans really think Johnson's going to turn the city around. You cannot be serious. I'm assuming you are a Palos Paul supporter who still hasn't paid his campaign workers and who clearly couldn't manage the funds of his own campaign as he's now suing one of his workers for $700,000 for putting up and taking down lawn signs. Is that the guy that you thought was well equipped to run the city, the financial wizard, Palos Paul? Johnson hasn't even been sworn in yet. Okay. And we've said many times, if he fails to deliver, let me finish what I'm saying, Ed, please. Okay. If he fails to deliver on what he promised, we are going to be as critical of him as we were of Mayor Lori Lightfoot and Mayor Rahm Emanuel before her. But this bullshit claiming that we're hypocrites, we're not complaining about what did you say here? We're angry at border states for clearly stating they have a crisis, yet you complain when 500 migrants come into our city. Apparently, you haven't been watching the program. We have not been complaining about the migrants who've been bused to our city. We've been complaining about the fact that not only has the city failed miserably in having a plan to serve them, that just adds to the public the public frustration that the city has not addressed our homeless crisis, that the city and our quote-unquote leadership has not served the issues of the neighborhoods. That's why neighborhoods on the south side are up in arms, because what the city is horribly dealing with right now without a plan, throwing resources at helping the migrants, which they should do. It demonstrates that they could deal with the other issues that preceded the migrant crisis, but they didn't. They didn't want to. It was a lack of priorities. So I don't know if you've watched the show before, Brian H., but you clearly don't know what you're talking about, because we're not angry. We're not angry at the fact that migrants are coming to Chicago. We're angry at the fact that our elected representatives, I'm not going to call them leaders, because they have not demonstrated leadership in this matter, in the homeless crisis, in the mental health crisis, and in everything that has transpired regarding these neighborhoods on the south and west sides of the city that have been abandoned. So before you come into the chat and start claiming we're hypocrites, because you don't think we should even be addressing the migrant crisis because we have claimed we're a sanctuary city, you might want to have just a little bit more, I guess, what's the word? Familiarity with what our status has been before. What our thoughts have been before. Now, I don't recall seeing you in the chat before, Brian H., so I don't mean to come down hard on you. My frustration tonight is compounded by the fact I have a lot of technical issues on this side, and I'm trying to run the show as clearly as I can. So let me step back some of my ire, okay? Yeah. But honestly, though, take into account what Ed and I have talked about in the past.
I may have misread some of the comments that Brian H. has posted.
Okay.
Based on, I think he may have been responding to some other people in the chat.
Okay.
I think he may actually be on the same page with us for a few things. He understands.
I'm sorry for my rant, man.
He understands it's a national issue. It's one of those things where it's easy to have a knee-jerk reaction to things like the migrant crisis, right, especially when we have very little support on the federal level for a real solution, not just to support them, but to support everyone in America, because we've seen over the last handful of years and longer how very little the ones at the top of our government care for the rest of us, how very much they are focused on what they can benefit from personally and who they can do favors for on the corporate level. So
and Brian, you're right. You're right. I'm looking at your other comments in the live chat. So I'm walking back my outburst. I apologize. I thought that and you're calling us hypocrites. I don't know if you were calling Ed and I hypocrites or people in the chat, but we've been pretty consistent in our criticism regarding the fact that, Chicago's had corrupt politicians for decades, and compounding that is the fact that, the city has addressed nothing. They don't address crime or homelessness. They steal from the people. Yeah, that's why people on the south and west sides are like really pissed off right now. And this is compounded by the fact that Lightfoot clearly had no plan. She threw out these platitudes on her way out of office to act like she's done anything when she hasn't, and she didn't have any plan in place. And to the point of the article that we just shared from the Chicago Sun-Times, they've got beds in storage, man. They've got all kinds of large empty spaces, probably large industrial spaces if they can't use McCormick Place, because convention season is starting. They have the resources. They're not using them. They have the wherewithal to claim federal funds. They haven't submitted any invoices to actually take care of the problem. Sorry, man. I think my tech issues are just like setting me on edge right now.
Yeah, it was kind of like I was talking with Jerry before the show started. I said your technical issues right now before the show are like creating this level of stress and ire, very much like my commute home from after my day job, stuck in traffic with a bunch of morons who can't figure out where the gas pedal is.
Yeah. And I loaded the page, Ed, for the next story 10 minutes ago, and it's still not displaying in my Chrome browser.
Oh, okay.
Okay, it's here now. Why don't we pop it up? Let's move to our next story regarding Mayor-elect Johnson and his unity plan reorganization.
Oh, I got it. Okay.
From Cranes.
I got it.
Who I really believe Cranes is rooting for his failure.
Well, they are a business publication, so.
Yeah. He hasn't even taken office yet, and they're just like, there's nothing positive they can say. And here's the other thing. Speaking about Palos Paul again, I haven't seen any of the big business organizations, aside from the news, reporting on the fact Paul hasn't paid his campaign workers. Oh, did you also see that how he jumped out after the police officer was slain last week? He went on social media to basically throw red meat to the Fraternal Order police and the law enforcement community. And that comment on Twitter was peppered with comments from people like, have you paid your campaign workers yet, dude? This is when you're coming out to basically just pander to the law enforcement community that supported you. He's good for nothing, man.
Yeah, I don't know why he even bothers reaching out to anyone at this point. He's damaged goods in the city.
Yeah. As are a lot of the black leaders who supported him, who we will get to at the end of the show, because there was a great article from the Tribe that talked about, are they sellouts or did they just need to take advantage of an economic opportunity? I would say the former, but Tribe is very, very fair about assessing that. And that's the story tease. But going back to Cranes here. Okay, let me read from Cranes staff. Johnson confirms unity plan city council reorganization. On Friday afternoon, incoming Mayor Brandon Johnson officially unveiled his unity plan, a reshuffling of city council leadership roles that upends Alderman's previously approved resolution. Confirming a Cranes report from earlier this week, Johnson's proposal will establish 20 committees, and we talked about that, and 2 subcommittees with several Johnson supporters appointed to key committee chair spots. How can committees and subcommittees getting feedback from all the different interests in the city be a bad thing?
It's not, but what they're referencing there with the previously approved resolution was that city council had voted that they would be going forward appointing their own chairs to these different divisions. And I'm like, okay, well, that's democracy for you, but still,
is it city council approving their own people without feedback from the Chicagoans?
Well, I guess you would have to have a longer conversation about that because, for one, I think it's good to have the mayor put up a list of who he would like to be in those roles, and then let city council decide yay or nay, and then if nay, then maybe that would be the point where city council says this is who we'd like in that role, and is there any opposition? From the mayor or anyone else in city council, and then they make that decision and move forward. But I'm not in charge of city council, and we don't know what's going to happen on that first day. Is city council going to push back on his appointments? Are we going to get a really early start to council wars too?
Yeah, I think we are. I mean, already the fact that they got to let the guy get sworn in and start presenting the things he talked about and start putting things in action. Now, I guess I hear what you're saying on the fact that there should have been some back and forth, but a lot of these older people, Ed, were there kissing Lori Lightfoot's ass. Okay, and even though a lot of the incumbents dropped out, you've still got an old guard, including people like Lopez and his faction, that want to retain control of city council. And I would think that in the interest of seeing, I don't know, like building a bridge with the mayor, they'd say, okay, you know what? We'll do it your way, but if it doesn't work, then we're going to have a discussion. I think he's trying to clean house with these committees and subcommittees. Yeah. That's how I look at it.
Well, also, I think he's trying to remove obstructions.
Yes. Said Johnson via press release, this plan not only empowers the most diverse group of council chairs in history, but also unites us across geography and political ideology. With this unity plan in place, my administration and the new city council look forward to the work of building a better, stronger, safer Chicago. The proposed committees and their chairs are Alderman Pat Dowell III will serve as chair of the Committee on Finance. Out was Scott Wagesback, I believe.
Yeah.
The faux progressive, the guy who ran as a progressive, then started aligning himself with Lightfoot. Alderman Jason Irvin of the 28th will serve as chair of the Committee on Budget. Alderman Maria Hodden of the 49th will serve as chair of the Committee on Environmental Protection. Alderman Michelle Harris of the 8th will serve as chair of the Committee on Rules. Alderman Brian Hopkins of the 2nd will serve as the chair of the Committee on Public Safety. Alderman Daniel Espada of the 1st will serve as chair of the Committee on Pedestrian and Traffic Safety. Alderman Matt Martin of the 47th will serve as chair of the Committee on Ethics. Okay. Alderman Greg Mitchell of the 7th will serve as chair of the Committee on Transportation. Alderman Emma Mitz of the 37th will serve as chair of the Committee on Contracting. Alderman Matt O'Shea, 19th, will serve as the chair of the Committee on Aviation. Alderman Carlos Ramirez Rosa of the 35th will serve as chair of the Committee on Zoning.
That's a huge one, by the way.
Alderwoman Rosanna Rodriguez Sanchez of the 33rd will serve as chair of the Committee on Health and Human Relations. Alderman Michael Rodriguez of the 22nd will serve as chair of the Committee on Workforce Development. Alderman Byron Sikjo Lopez of the 25th will serve as chair of the Committee on Housing. I'm glad to see him there. Alderman, did you see my expression?
Yes.
That's my alder person. Alderwoman Deborah Silverstein, 50th, will serve as chair of the Committee on License and Consumer Protection.
Okay.
I'm surprised that he appointed her, given the fact that she was a Paul Vallis supporter, but it does show Mayor-elect Johnson willing to reach across the aisle, so to speak. Alderman Nick Sposato of the 38th will serve as chair of the Committee on Special Events. Alderman Chris Taliaferro, 29th, will serve as chair of the Committee on Police and Fire. Alderman Jeanette Taylor of the 20th will serve as chair of the Committee on Education. Alderman Andre Vasquez of the 40th will serve as the chair of the Committee on Immigration. Okay. Alderman Gil Villegas of the 36th will serve as chair of the Committee on the Economy and Technology. Additionally, the two new subcommittees would be Revenue, which would fall under the Finance Committee, and Youth Employment, which would fall under the Workforce Development Committee. Other roles included in Johnson's plan include Alderman Samantha Nugent of the 39th as President pro tempore. Tempore or tempore?
Tempore.
Tempore. Alderwoman Stephanie Coleman of the 16th as Assistant President pro tempore. Alderman Walter Burnett of the 27th as Vice Mayor.
Vice Mayor.
Vice Mayor. And Ramirez Rosa will serve as floor leader. The plan will be put into a full city council vote in the near future. The next meeting of the full council is tentatively scheduled for Wednesday, May 24th.
Yeah, so the city council still has to vote to approve this.
Yeah.
So it's going to be fireworks. There's probably going to be a lot of hemming and hawing.
Yeah. Looking at the live chat really quickly, let's get the next story from the Sun-Times prepped. Yeah. You know, Brian, I feel really bad I went off on you a little while ago. I apologize. I'm really stressed out with these tech issues here right now that make it difficult for me to run things smoothly because I like everything to look professional and polished. And I got to figure out what's going on here so that it doesn't raise my stress levels and unfortunately provoke me into taking it out on miscommunication or my misread of the live chat. So apologies, dude. Ian McCarthy shares, Johnson is a commissioner. He's already part of the political establishment. I don't see any reason to think he will make more than a marginal difference. He should stand by defunding the police. Interesting point, Mr. McCarthy, because as our next article from the Sun-Times shares, and I've been engaged in some conversations with people this week in my own friend circles, specifically someone who works for the Cook County prosecutor's office, state's attorney's office, and we were talking about the influence of Preckwinkle, or the perceived influence of Preckwinkle, and it's there. She's horrible speaking in public, but she's very, very powerful behind the scenes, and she's a big reason that Johnson was selected, and why Johnson, I think, won. Now, I really hope that he's his own man and he's not the puppet mayor, basically serving Preckwinkle's policies and wishes. But the Sun-Times shares, and this came from Fran Spielman today. Brandon Johnson fleshes out senior staff, shows continued influence of Tony Preckwinkle, Chicago Teachers Union. Annette Guzman, Preckwinkle's county budget director, will be Johnson's city budget director. Jennifer Johnson, chief of staff for the CTU, where Brandon Johnson's been a paid organizer, will be a deputy mayor for education. I don't think being a paid organizer is a bad thing, nor do I think it necessarily has to be referenced in Fran's headline, but I digress. Mayor-elect Brandon Johnson on Thursday fleshed out the senior staff who will accompany him into office in a way that shows, now this is Fran Spielman's opinion, but founded on what we're seeing, the continued influence of Cook County Board President Tony Preckwinkle and the Chicago Teachers Union. Annette Guzman, Preckwinkle's budget director for Cook County government. We just went through this in the headline. Guzman replaces Susie Park, who for the last 4 years has been part of a triumvirate of women credited with engineering a financial turnaround under Mayor Lori Lightfoot that has included a record low $85 million budget shortfall, a $272 million pension prepayment, and 13 bond rating upgrades. Guzman's resume includes stints as deputy Cook County assessor, deputy chief administrator, and chief of staff for the Civilian Office of Police Accountability, as well as having worked in corporate law for the firm Sidley Austin LLP. Let's scroll to the next image, Ed. It's not just you get the budget done and that's it, Preckwinkle said of Guzman. It's the entire process of being sure that the budget numbers are met all the way through the process. She's been very good at that. I'm sorry to lose her, but I know that Brandon will definitely need her skills and talents on the city side. The city faces clearly a lot more challenges than the county at this point. Guzman will join a financial team under Johnson that also includes newly appointed Jill Jaworski, who's moving from managing director and partner of PFM Financial Advisors to City Hall's chief financial officer. Jaworski replaces Jenny Huang Bennett as the city's CFO, who hailed her replacement as an incredible choice, a well-respected municipal finance professional with decades of experience. Quote, I expect her to continue on the path of fiscal discipline and build on the financial turnaround under Lightfoot, Bennett wrote in an email. I don't know that we saw a big financial turnaround under Lightfoot, but okay. Preckwinkle's behind-the-scenes influence is also reflected in Johnson's choice for policy director S. Mayumi Umi Grigsby, chair and commissioner of the Cook County Human Rights Commission. She formerly was chief of policy for City Clerk Anna Valencia and an assistant prosecutor in Cook County State's Attorney Kim Fox's office. Jennifer Johnson, chief of staff to the CTU, where Brandon Johnson was a paid organizer, will be deputy mayor for education. She's a former history teacher at Lincoln Park High School. Go ahead, Ed. You were going to say?
No, I wasn't.
Okay.
I was just flipping.
Okay.
Yeah.
CTU President Stacey Davis Gates said she was absolutely elated about the appointment. She called Jennifer Johnson a unifier, a bridge builder, and the best thing that ever happened to education in Chicago. So, okay, let's take a pause here. A lot of Preckwinkle influenced appointees.
Yeah.
Whether you like Preckwinkle or not, is this a bad thing?
That depends. If we see another soda tax, that's going to be problematic for me.
For everybody. Or other punitive taxes, like proposed soda tax that Preckwinkle put forth, which was, I mean, it wasn't just on soft drinks. It was on drinks that didn't have sugar in them. It was so badly planned and prepared. And that's a lot of people speculate. That's why she lost the election in 2020. What was last election? We're in 2023 now. When was it? 2019, right? Was the last election 2019, 2021? Yeah. That's why she lost the 2019 election, because people were so bent out of shape over the fact that this sugar tax, it wasn't even just going after sugar. It was going after any sweetened drink that didn't even have sugar. And it was a real blight on people's grocery budgets, or food and drink budgets.
Well, yeah, it's these consumption taxes that
Right.
are really hurting working class people. It's punitive for people who have the least amount of money to spare for their budget, and it's not fair to us that rich people can just pay for whatever they want, and so these taxes don't hurt them at all.
Yeah. Personally, I think that she was very misguided on instituting the sugar tax when she said it was to safeguard people's health. I'm sorry. It was
Bullshit.
That was bullshit. There are a lot of other ways you could safeguard people's health. Okay. And there were a lot of other issues there were a lot of other things you could tax on instead of like this punitive sugar tax across the board. Now I see Joy Bunton in the chat. Welcome, Joy. Always good to see you. Preckwinkle was a Chicago teacher too, pro CTU. Joy also shared that she wasn't perfect. She was better than Lightfoot. And she also shares Cook County elected officials are more progressive than Chicago's. Okay, I will take your word on that, and we'll see what happens.
I'm reserving judgment at this point.
Yeah.
Because again, we're still 3 days out.
Yeah.
So
the soda sugar tax.
We don't know what they're going to do.
The soda sugar tax was so she wouldn't have had to fire people, though. I don't know, Joy. I don't know. She couldn't find that she couldn't find the money elsewhere instead of saddling people here with more taxes, a consumption tax. I have a hard time believing that, with all respect.
Yeah, but I'm just hoping that there's enough people in his administration and enough new people in city council that they can come up to logical solutions that don't hurt those of us who can at least afford it.
Cost people more money that they can't afford.
I don't know what he's going to do about these property taxes, but we got to get a hold on those. We got to get those under control. They're out of control.
She's one of the smartest. Oh, okay. So we went through Stacey Gates talking about Jennifer Johnson. She's one of the smartest people in this entire ecosystem. She has a grasp of the broad framework and an eye for detail. She's relentless in getting it right. I have depended on her totally in this first year of my administration. She exceeds any objective or expectation put before her, the CTU president said. The children of Chicago will have the most fierce advocate. The parents of Chicago will have someone they can trust, Davis Gates said. Vanquished mayoral challenger Paul Vallis repeatedly questioned whether a paid organizer for the CTU he can't even pay his campaign workers, and he's questioning whether a paid organizer for the CTU, whose mayoral campaign was bankrolled by the union and its affiliates, could represent the interests of Chicago taxpayers in negotiations with the CTU. The same question could be asked of Jennifer Johnson, the CTU's chief negotiator. But Davis Gates predicted Jennifer Johnson would create a different type of negotiating dynamic between City Hall and the CTU after less than ideal bargaining over the last 3 contracts. That perspective on negotiations was obviously broken because we have a very anti-education sentiment, anti-teacher sentiment in this city, which for the life of me, I cannot understand. I can't understand how people vilify teachers, vilify the union, vilify the people who they entrust their children with every day while they go to work and expect to babysit extra hours with proposals that we extend the school year, we extend the school day, we go into weekends. It just crazy stuff. That perspective on negotiations was obviously broken. I foresee Jennifer Johnson creating a new table that speaks first to the sustainability of the Chicago public schools and the needs of every single family that brings their children into the Chicago public schools. I cannot wait for the innovations that the city receives as a result of her leadership, Davis Gates said. Pointing to Brandon Johnson's roots as a middle school teacher, Davis Gates said what once was is no longer. We do not have a mayor who has declared war on us. The previous two mayors were very clear about being adversaries. The mayor-elect and his team will lead the transformation and sustainability of our public school system. Yeah, great, because that's the front line of everything we deal with here in Chicago with having better educated children.
Yeah, and
providing more opportunities for them, education to steer them away from the possibility of falling into the wrong crowds with crime. Right?
And all the negative connotations, Jerry, they came basically as propaganda from people who were for privatizing the school.
That's right, charter school.
So what happens is all those guys are, trying to make it sound like charter schools are so much better than public schools, while they basically help to sabotage the public schools, not just their literally sabotage, but also sabotage their reputation.
Sabotage, you mean?
Sabotage. No, you say sabotage. I say sabotage.
While enriching themselves as well.
Yeah.
Not the children themselves.
And I don't have exact documents in front of me, but I've read the stories in the past where they compared private schools, like charter schools versus public schools, and they get relatively the same quality of education when they're both given the proper resources. And so what it really comes down to is, are you going to privatize that, or are you going to have a public school system that gets full support and is equitable to the entire city?
Joy brings up a point to that, because only 11% of CPS students are white. Most white parents have their children go elsewhere. Yep. And that's why we have an inequitable school system in Chicago. So many critics who don't even live in the city, they live in the outlying suburbs, right, are all for charter schools because they claim parents should have a right to where to send their kids if they want to give them a better education. And what have we argued? Shouldn't all kids in the city get a good education? Shouldn't we be funding city schools the same way we fund the schools in Winnetka, Wilmette, Kenilworth, Evanston? That's what you need to do. That's why you don't need charter schools, because then the education across the city is equal to all the students. There's no need to, and that speaks to the whole Darwinian, well, my kids are better than other kids and I'm willing to pay for a better education. Way to contribute to the problem that the root causes of crime. And it's
also very short-sighted, because if you're not going to provide proper education to all of the citizens, then you're going to have these bouts of inequality and these areas where people are lashing out because of the lack of resources. You're creating the problem, or you're exacerbating the problem when you don't provide equity in education. Yep.
Joy shares charter schools can reject students with learning disabilities and special education. Very eugenic styled system, wouldn't you say? Not eugenics based, but I mean, clearly discriminatory, to Joy's point there. Former CTU President Jesse Sharkey joined his successor in singing the praises of Jennifer Johnson. The new Deputy Mayor for Education is a remarkable human being who has a deep respect and admiration from anyone lucky enough to get to work with her, Sharkey said. Jen is caring, pays attention to people on a personal level. Jen is brilliant, one of the best informed, most thoughtful, smartest people I know. She's incredibly conscientious and hardworking. Everyone who works with her admires the hell out of her, he added. She's been really important to the CTU and all of the things we've accomplished. It will be the city's gain, and it'll definitely be the people in the union who experience a loss, said Sharkey. Brandon Johnson's senior staff will be particularly important. Since the new mayor is not ready to clean house, he has asked nearly all of Lightfoot's appointees, cabinet members, and agency chiefs to stay for at least 3 months, giving them a chance to prove themselves. I think that's very admirable of him, because you know what, if they don't, at least he can transition a little bit more smoothly, finding the right replacements for them. I I mean, what do you think, Ed? I actually think that's a smart idea.
Let's get everybody in place and see what happens.
Yeah.
I know I was in behind the scenes. I've been working on some Brandon bingo cards. I don't know if they're ready for prime time yet. We may wait until next week to show them.
Well, no. It's in the show notes at the end of the show. We'll get to it.
Oh, it is? Okay. I just wanted to say, I mean, we have we previously had the Chicago Corner Manifesto for the candidates, right? And we wanted to have a list of goals or priorities that we thought needed to be addressed. But now we've got a new mayor. We should have a list of what do we expect to happen in his first month. So
we have to give him time to share, to show us.
Stay tuned for that.
All right. Let's
we got video next.
Yeah, let's pivot back to Lightfoot's last week in office. The show notes. So the headline for this YouTube video was Lightfoot goes on a bus tour ahead of final send-off as mayor. I editorialized it as damage control bus tour because that's exactly what it is. Let's share this video.
All right.
It is the final countdown for Mayor Lori Lightfoot's term as Chicago mayor. Today, Lightfoot will visit the Bronzeville Winery as part of a bus tour around her Invest Southwest and Chicago Works community development programs. Then at 4:30 this afternoon.
Oh, that's all there was?
My gosh.
15 seconds? Okay.
But the next video, the next video is gold as she reflects on her last day in office.
Office for Mayor Lightfoot ahead of Brandon Johnson's inauguration on Monday.
But before the transition of power, a crowd packed City Hall for a final farewell. WGN's Joel Hillary joins us live with more on Mayor Lightfoot's legacy. Hi, Joel.
Hi, good evening, you all. Mayor Lori Lightfoot left City Hall just about an hour ago in a 1940s maroon Cadillac. And just before she was escorted off, a number of folks.
Pause it for a second.
As well as supporters.
The pageantry of being forced out of office through an election.
Mm-hmm.
A 1940s whatever vehicle, like she's some dictator who's departing office for exile is kind of what this reminds me of.
It's like she's doing the greatest hits of everybody leaving.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I had the leprechaun. I mean, I didn't say leprechaun, did I? The bagpipes clip. I do still have that up on the tab. Just the fact that it's everybody's calling her a leprechaun or a munchkin or whatever, and she goes out with the bagpipes playing, and I'm like, oh my god, it doesn't even occur to her. She's completely oblivious.
She's tone deaf about everything and her legacy, and the fact that she was complaining. Now, I don't know if it gets into it in this because I didn't get a chance to watch the whole video.
I think it does.
Reflecting on her last day in office, where she was basically excusing herself for her abrasive personality because Rahm Emanuel did it and Richie Daley. I was following on social media a lot of elected representatives and city council said, no, actually Rahm Emanuel was much more approachable than Lori Lightfoot was. So for her to glom on to the fact that he wasn't that likable in public, apparently he was far more amenable behind the scenes with them, as opposed to her abrasive, very toxic intolerance behind the scenes as well as in front of in the public eye.
Supporters turned the lobby of City Hall into a celebratory atmosphere for her final send-off. On May 20th, 2019, Mayor Lori Lightfoot was sworn in as the city of Chicago's first Black female mayor.
I, Lori Elaine Lightfoot. I, Lori Elaine Lightfoot.
Nearly 4 years later, as her term comes to an end, Mayor Lightfoot was sent off in a traditional clap-out at City Hall. Before the clap-out, Lightfoot spent time touring.
That's a thing?
I would what I would prefer to refer to as, Ed, a crap out.
Yeah.
Crapping her out. Goodbye. Time to flush.
Parts of Chicago the city has invested in.
I feel very, very good about our record of accomplishment. I am confident that it will live on in the lives of the people that we have touched, in the neighborhoods that we've breathed new life.
Mayor Lightfoot's administration raised the minimum wage to $15 and expanded the Fair Work Week ordinance. The mayor has stated that she considers equity and inclusion guiding principles.
She should have raised it to 25 because you know what?
Yeah.
Rahm Emanuel was the one who got that started. It just happened during her term in office that it finally went through.
Yeah,
She's taking claim for something that Rahm Emanuel originally put into place, which at the time, it took a while for it to like kick in, at which point it's still not enough.
It's all the things she's taking credit for were things that were put into motion by Rahm for the most part. The casino.
Yep.
You know, I mean,
another one of Rahm's greatest hits. Now hers that she claims.
Principles and is proud of Invest Southwest, the city's signature community development initiative to invest in the city's south and west sides. Amidst the accomplishments, Lightfoot has her share of critics.
Okay, speaking of her share of critics, is anybody out there in the live chat living in the south or west sides that can honestly tell us what she's done over there that people are benefiting from? I mean, I see these little things where she's cutting ribbons or she's grabbing a symbolic shovel for things that might be getting started on construction and stuff. I'm like, is there anyone benefiting from stuff that she's done right now?
By the way, we have Kathy Powers, last $1 super chat tip for Lori Leprechaun. Here you go, Kathy. Enjoy.
Oh, I think Kathy needs a bonus for that, though. Hold on a second.
Okay.
I got to give her a bonus.
You're obsessed with the bagpipe. Oh, it's Leprechaun related, I guess. Oh, look at her. Look at her. She's like fucking Adolf Hitler driving. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. She's completely toned down. I wonder how many lights she ran, Ed, on the way home.
All of them.
I mean, she thinks she's what? Dwight Eisenhower?
Nixon?
Oh my God! She's so fucking full of herself. Thank God she's gone.
Some calling her governing style combative.
The notion that I'm tougher, more combative than Rich Daley or Rahm Emanuel is a joke. If I was a man, if I was a white man,
here she goes.
We wouldn't be having these discussions.
Yes, we would.
Yeah, we would. And we have. Everybody was critical of Rahm Emanuel and Rich Daley. Okay. Yes. The thing was, they were not as combative behind the scenes as she was, along with in the public eye all the time, and especially with the press.
The city prepares to transition from the Lightfoot administration to Mayor-elect Brandon Johnson's administration. Mayor Lightfoot says she wishes the mayor-elect success.
We've done everything that we could to set him up for success. As I mentioned him before.
So, like, when doing nothing sets the next mayor up for success because he looks so much better by comparison? Is that what you're saying?
Big Papa Ken answers your question from the Southwest. Nothing happened over here on the Southeast side. The site where the RFP is trash, dirty, and broken bottles everywhere.
Okay, but what about the West side, though?
She went out like Franz Ferdinand. Oh, my God. Aren't they building a cop city on Chicago's west side? Chicago Avenue on the west side.
Well, I mean, if you're talking about Cicero, it's already there.
Yeah, that's true.
And I'll say it here. My door is always open for any consultation that he wants, and I won't even charge him.
Hey, Lori, where'd you put all those TIF funds?
That should be his first question to her. What's in the TIF funds and how do we open them up?
With life outside of the public eye just days away, the mayor says she's not ready to disclose her next steps yet, but shared family will be her focus.
I'm going to be a mom. I'm going to be a wife. I'm going to be a daughter to my mom.
Okay, that's because Mother's Day's coming up on Sunday. So everybody out there, if you got a mom that you got to pay special attention to this weekend, this is your heads up for that. Say thank you, Mom, for being my mom.
Yeah. Special shout out to all the moms this weekend. Happy Mother's Day. I forgot that it was, well, I didn't forget. It was in preparing the show. I didn't think about it. But yeah, Mother's Day is this weekend. Wasn't Lightfoot endorsing Vallis? At what point? No, she didn't put out an endorsement for anybody.
No, we almost had a special breaking endorsement here on Chicago Corner, but then the feed broke. It cut out. I don't know if she was ever going to make one, but we never got one from her.
I'm checking to see if we still have that in the Lori. We don't. We don't have it in the Lori Lightfoot, the soon to be retired Lori Lightfoot library.
No, I think then she was patched in from the Lortillo's drive-through.
Right.
She had renamed. I guess she was like just trying out the fast food drive-through because she thought it was fun and wasn't sure she wanted to do something else after her mayorship. And Portillo's kept getting mad at her because she kept saying, welcome to Lortillo's with an L, which, that's not a terrible name for a fast food joint.
No, sir. No, sir. No, sir. You will stop speaking. You will stop speaking. You're full of crap. And that's the nicest thing that I can say.
Yes, that's accurate.
I wish if my browser wasn't acting so hinky, I would have brought up the Lortillo's clip, but you can find it on our YouTube channel at Chicago Corner. It's there existing on its own. All right, let's finish up. Let's just let her get in her last words as we get in her
When the
last
mayor
words.
was asked if she had any regrets during her term as mayor, she said she doesn't
Like
think
we do.
much about regrets, but says she tried to make the best decisions in the moment, and when she had time, she would reflect on those decisions. Mayor-elect Brandon Johnson will be sworn in as Chicago's next mayor this coming Monday. Reporting live outside of City Hall, I'm Jewel Hillary, WGN News.
Anybody who claims they have no regrets in their life or in their service is a stone cold sociopath.
Liar, too.
And a liar. Okay? No self-awareness, an ego as huge as Mount Rushmore, and a toxic sociopathic personality that cannot acknowledge vulnerabilities or why is the word escaping me now? I was going to say failures, but unintentional failures. That's what the word I was looking for was unintentional. We all fail. Hey, how many times have I apologized on this program for endorsing Jamal Green? Okay. I was wrong. I've been wrong about a lot of things, and I have no regrets acknowledging and stating it, because as more information comes in, we're supposed to learn. We're supposed to look at the facts as they are presented to you, and we're supposed to learn and grow from that. You can't just stay the course off the cliff because you don't want to be perceived as being wrong or possibly having miscalculated something. This is how we learn, by acknowledging our miscalculations and our mistakes, so we don't make those mistakes again. And the fact that she's unwilling to, Ed, can you imagine how much it would have humanized her if she acknowledged, yeah, I fucked up here, I fucked up there.
Yeah.
I did my best. This is a miscalculation. No. Stays the course because she just does not want, and that's from a very deep-rooted insecurity. That's a very dominant, authoritarian, controlling personality that is the result of someone who's very, very insecure and unwilling to admit mistakes and try to change course and improve from them.
It's a personality flaw. I think your buddy Dummy Trump would be able to probably explain it better. It's because he never apologizes for anything.
He doubles down, and she does too. She doubles down, not as badly as Trump does, but it's very much the same iceberg ego that
I might have been wrong, but you were wronger.
Yeah.
But I make no mistake, so even if I was wrong, it was probably the correct action at the time.
Because I'm the best. I'm the best president. Do you see how his Truth Social stock has been tanking?
Oh, is it?
Yeah. I was one of those who jumped into it hoping to make a fast buck, and now I'm saddled with a huge loss.
Damn.
I don't know. Maybe it'll go up before the election. You know what? I have no problem capitalizing on idiots who decide to.
Yeah, well, Elon just hired a new CEO for Twitter, so we'll see what happens. Because that new CEO was a tool of the World Economic Forum, and that's not good news for people on social media.
Andrew shares, I remember when I saw on TV that she was elected after I moved back to the suburbs. I was initially happy that an LGBTQIA person was elected, learned identities and everything. Yeah, you and me both, Andrew. I voted for her for the same reasons, and was along with everybody who thought perhaps the fact that she would be a little bit more sensitive to the boy, my brain dictionary is not working tonight, to the needs of marginalized people, the most vulnerable, the most discriminated against, the most that need help. She just completely turned her back on it. She used her identity to enrich herself while completely abandoning the identities she ascribed to while she was running.
She used it as both a weapon and a shield.
Yeah. Joy shares, she ran on progressive issues, then psych. Yep.
Yeah, that's mostly what we've been spending our time on criticizing her on. She promised all these progressive reforms and transparency and bringing in the light, et cetera, et cetera. What did she do?
She pulled the rug out from under everybody. All right, moving into our next story. I think this might be our last Lori Lightfoot, last licks story. Because boy, oh boy, have we engaged in this over the past couple years.
Mm-hmm.
Seriously, was Lori Lightfoot funny? Yeah, she was about as funny as a heart attack. A look back at the memeing of the Chicago mayor as we engaged in here. This comes from Chicago Tribune, Christopher Borelli. Someday in the distant future, when you think back on the single mayoral term of Lori Lightfoot, when the name comes up and you hadn't heard it much lately, what do you think you'll remember? You know what? I know this is what I'm going to remember anytime I hear Lori Lightfoot's name. Why is this deep breaths? I know, Kathy, I'm having a lot of issues here with this damn browser that interrupts my flow of the program. Come on, man. Hang on, guys. Let's reset that. Someday in the distant future, when you think back on the single mayoral term of Lori Lightfoot, when the name comes up and you hadn't heard it much lately, what do you think you'll remember? Here's what I'll remember.
No, sir. No, sir. No, sir. You will stop speaking. You will stop speaking. You're full of crap. And that's the nicest thing that I can say.
You know what I'll remember, Jerry? This. Actual size.
That too. Yeah, actual size. Any specific image? Or something closer to a mood? Set aside feelings of heartbreak, betrayal, admiration, and animosity. Just form an image in your head. that's another one. Another static image I think we're all going to remember. My brain goes straight to those lighthearted Lori Lightfoot stay-at-home memes that spread virally in the early days of the pandemic. But it's nudged out by a different image, the census cowboy. Who remembers the census cowboy? Anyone? Mayor Lightfoot introduced him at a news conference during the summer of 2020. He was created to encourage Chicagoans to fill out their census forms. It was not the stupidest idea ever. You see a cowboy riding a horse through your neighborhood. You wonder what's going on. Then you slap your forehead. Oh, I need to fill out my census. Makes total sense. The census cowboy was introduced on a horse. He trotted out to Lil Nas X's Old Town Road, waving a Census 2020 flag. His name was Adam Hollingsworth, also known as the Dreadhead Cowboy, who went viral himself riding into George Floyd protests on horseback. Last year, he pled guilty to animal cruelty.
Yeah,
and
when
you're in jail.
What was he? He rode his horse onto the expressway.
Yeah,
that's
also
a no-no.
Severely injured his horse because the horse was not the hooves or the
wasn't outfitted to travel on pavement.
Yeah. So he got a full year in jail. But back in 2020, now enshrined on YouTube and Facebook, the mayor looks all in, leaning into the silliness of the initiative, a clear attempt to make something so incongruous it goes viral. If you see the census cowboy come into your neighborhood, that's not a good thing, she says. That means you need to step up and do your part and fill out the census. The applause sounds more confused than delighted. The mayor wears a lime green cowboy hat and the smile of someone whose very best joke is not landing. She was very much into the cosplay, Lori Lightfoot was.
And had she actually made an effort to do all the things she promised, some of this stuff might have actually been cute and adorable for a mayor to do these little stunts.
Yeah.
Just my perspective.
Yeah, no, it's true. I could explain why the census cowboy never quite caught on like the stay home, save lives memes, but it would be akin to the famous E.B. White caution, explaining a joke is like dissecting a frog. You understand it better, but the frog dies in the process.
Yeah.
A better question now that Lightfoot's leaving office Monday is, was Lori Lightfoot funny? Or were her attempts to go viral a cautionary tale to politicians who embrace memes? I'd say the latter. Absolutely. Because look at how much fun we had with her trying to be funny. I mean, nothing she did was funny. It just landed like a wet fart.
Lead balloon.
Or a wet fart. Wei Yang So is a PhD candidate in anthropology at the University of Chicago who has asked his students to select and dissect several political memes because really they are the emergence of a new language. What scant research exists on the relationship between politics and memes has yet to scrape the surface, he said, but it's already clear for someone like Lori Lightfoot or any politician, a meme is a tempting, quick way to make someone's policies or ideals more palpable and relatable to a broad public. Yeah, if you have the self-effacing humor to kind of poke fun at yourself and not take yourself so seriously, I think a big reason her shit wasn't funny is because in every other instance she was so serious and would not have a self-effacing attitude or accept criticism or acknowledge when she actually had some failures that she could course correct from. I think that's a big part of it. Still, it's also political communication done so loosely that any attempt at going viral can be viewed as pandering, which could do damage and chip away at the politician's image. The bottom line is kind of like a warning. Effects are highly varied. The stay-at-home memes that partly defined the first year of Lightfoot's term were a confluence of good timing and counterintuition. If the pandemic fog has weakened your cultural recall, some context may help. As COVID-19 spread in March of 2020, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker issued a statewide stay-at-home orders, except Chicago likes its lakefront too much, so within days, the mayor warned that she would shut all parks and trails if Chicago didn't abide by the order. She looked visibly agitated by the casualness of her constituents. She grew stern, stay home, do not congregate, and do not let the warming weather let your guard slip. Chicago police could issue fines for large gatherings. The mayor was watching. I actually edited, of course the tab's not going to open so I can share it. I had edited a video to Keep Your Eye on the Sparrow, that Beretta song, Keep your eye on the sparrow while Lori Lightfoot was popping up all over town. Ed, on your end there, can you go to Nightstar Productions YouTube channel and see my uploaded videos and see if you can find it? Because my browser's not going to let me. Well, I read this article. I didn't think about it before the show. But...
I can look for that.
Okay. Nightstar Productions, Lori Lightfoot, COVID. It's probably in Nightstar Productions videos. Within days, Lightfoot's image pulled from news conferences, diminutive arms tucked around a folder, holding a do not test me stare, wearing dark baggy suits that bunched up around a pair of Keds, began circulating on Twitter and Instagram in clever, funny collages. Lightfoot standing on a police sawhorse at the lakefront, warning, "Thou shalt not pass." Lightfoot's face superimposed on the bat signal. Lightfoot on top of Willis Tower and in the Chicago River. Lightfoot giving Channel 7's 7-day outlook forecast, stay home. Lightfoot holding a Pennywise balloon at a red line station. I remember all of these. Lightfoot inside an empty Edward Hopper Nighthawk Steiner and glaring at parasol-carrying picnickers in Serrault's A Sunday on Le Grand Jatte, both Art Institute of Chicago attractions. My favorite Lightfoot in a refrigerator noting, "You just ate." At first, Lightfoot seemed surprised. I'm going to pull this down until you find that video.
Is it the Sammy Davis Jr. one?
Yes. Yeah. You got it ready? Let's take a pause and share this.
Okay.
Let's see what we're talking about. And we'll get a copyright strike, but I'm going to claim it's fair use.
I hope that I don't have to shut down the lakefront and shut down all the parks, but I will if we cannot get compliance.
Don't go to bed with no price on your head. No. Don't do it. No. Don't do the crime if you
can't do the time. Don't do it.
Keep your eye
on the sparrow.
Under no circumstances are you allowed to congregate.
When the
Your conduct, yours, is posing a direct threat to our public health.
Yeah, turns out that wasn't entirely accurate, but she just did what she was told by all the people and the muckety mucks who thought they knew better.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
We've had repeated reports of people engaging in full contact sports as if this virus isn't serious.
Looks like a pizza, Ed.
Omicron pizza.
Pandemic means it's here in our midst every day, and we've got to all do our part.
Yeah, who'd have known that? That vitamin D3, vitamin C, some of those other things that people normally do to boost their immune systems would have actually helped a whole lot of people.
Don't do it. Don't do me dirt, or you're gonna get hurt.
Don't do it. And then, of course,
remember those days?
Yeah, remember, and like the Lori Lightfoot standees that people had, and people even started using them for dibs, to mark out their shoveled out spaces in the winter.
I have my Rona Destroyer virus that I'm tempted to put on the street for dibs, but I don't believe in dibs. So and someone will probably steal it anyway. Yeah. So I guess that's all from the video. At first, Lightfoot seemed surprised and uncertain how to respond, but on the advice of her new chief marketing officer, Michael Fosnacht, that was the German,
yes,
who introduced her at her leaving office celebration.
Yes,
Michael Fosnacht.
Yes,
the
Red Skull.
Yep. I am Michael Fosnacht. I am Lori Lightfoot's Red Skull. Lori Lightfoot, how very exciting. She recognized a compliment or perhaps a branding message. This mayor did not suffer fools and meant what she said. Fosnacht declined to comment for this article beyond confirming he asked her to embrace the memes. Mayoral transition is too sensitive a time to elaborate. He said, "Oh, I sensed something behind the scenes that maybe she wasn't too keen on it." He asked her to embrace the memes. Why would you ask her? Why wouldn't she just willingly say, "All right, I'm going to do this"? At that moment of anxiety, Chicago laughed and passed around those memes beyond the Midwest. The jokes lent both a charm and some degree of warmth to Lightfoot at exactly a moment when many Chicagoans were still feeling out of touch with the mayor. Tribune slapped her watchful cutout atop its front page masthead to encourage social distancing. The Washington Post and probably placed her in a long lineage of Chicago comedians, alongside Stephen Colbert, John Belushi, Bill Murray, and Tina Fey. Even the city
They
of Chicago
always leave me out of that one.
And rightfully so. Even the city of Chicago, even the city of Chicago's Twitter account shared a cardboard Lightfoot watching from behind the curtains of a Portage Park bungalow for a new mayor. Memes sold her authority. Plus, on Etsy and elsewhere, it even looked a little cute. Lightfoot and the familiar rigid stance and stare began to appear on stickers, coffee mugs, and Christmas ornaments. Christmas ornaments!
Yes.
Christmas ornaments. Who would want Lori Lightfoot on their Christmas tree?
Just, as a gag, that's awesome.
This article goes on and on and on. I'm going to read one more paragraph before we move on, though. I think you get the point.
Yeah.
She what was the point of this article at the top? Let me go back to the headline.
Was she funny?
Was she funny? I don't know if she was funny, but she was certainly a joke.
Yeah. That's pretty much the summary, I think.
I'd say so too. And yeah, they talk about the Rona Destroyer image also. Yeah. There were videos of at Halloween, Lightfoot wore a black mask, a Clorox sandwich board, and a red cape with Rona Destroyer stitched across her back. There you go. Well, what more can be said? That's that. She's gone. But
or am I? Dun, dun, dun. That was my trumpets of doom.
You know what? It's a good thing you asked, or am I? Because it transitions very well into our next story.
Ooh.
And what is that story, Ed?
Oh, it's that one.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Let me repeat our
Jean-Baptiste Point du Sable Drive.
Yep.
There's a delay on my end, so I got to wait for the music to stop. So here we go, ladies and gentlemen. And there was also a video. Do you have that? Did you download that video, the animated map?
Oh,
I have it on this end. Let me see if I have some luck.
It's in the Slack. I don't know where.
Yeah, let's see if I'm able to open it. Well, I'll read from. Yeah, here we go. All right, here we go. I might have some luck here showing the animated map.
Stand by. Jerry's gonna try pressing some buttons.
Yeah. Let's take your screen down real quick.
Yep.
Ladies and gentlemen, start your engines.
It's almost there. Okay, it's up.
This is what to expect next month, ladies and gentlemen, with all the road closures downtown prior to July 4th weekend. That's a month. A month of impact on and around Millennium Park, along with the breakdown.
They may have revised it slightly. I thought I saw something saying they may not have some of those roads closed as long as they initially intended to. But
you didn't review the show notes ahead of time, did you, Ed? Because I actually have that article linked in there.
Oh, do you have that?
Yeah.
Okay. There's more pages. See, I didn't realize there was another page.
Yeah, there was I'm not going to be reading from everything, but let's bring up the link that speaks to that before we go into them. I have them out of order. Let's open up NASCAR tweaks downtown Chicago street race plans.
Okay. I can do that.
While I wait for it to load on this end to read from. There we go. Let me remove the video we shared.
I don't know what this video is. Are we watching this video?
Why don't you play it while I load the story here? Sure. It might actually share the story I'm waiting to load that I can read from.
Okay. Let's cross our fingers and hope for the best.
Well, NASCAR is announcing tweaks to its plans for its downtown street race in July after months of concern for Chicagoans. Now, here are some of the changes that NASCAR says it will work on to make sure that the lakefront and the museum campus are still accessible. Now, just last week, the Shedd Aquarium, Field Museum, and the Adler Planetarium released changes in their schedules because of the race. NASCAR also says it is cutting down on the time that the roads will be closed to minimize the impact the race has on those of you who live near the course. Now, most of these closures won't start until the week of June 25th. Race cars will also have mufflers to decrease their noise.
That was it.
Which leads us into the WTTW story.
Okay.
Will mufflers mute NASCAR's impact on Chicago? Reviews are mixed. Coming from Patty Wetley at WTTW. NASCAR's upcoming Chicago street race won't look like any of the sport's other races. The street race is a NASCAR first, and it won't sound like any other one either. For only the second time, NASCAR Cup cars will be outfitted with mufflers, just one of the actions being taken by race organizers to head off concerns about noise. Do you suspect, Ed, it's going to be a big nothing burger as far as muting the noise of these engines? I do.
I don't know what it's going to do. I know there was criticism from NASCAR fans, but the truth is it's not for you, NASCAR fans. You don't care that stuff is loud. It's everybody else in the city that they're doing that for. And it's probably not going to be much as far as noise reduction goes, because you're going to have a whole bunch of cars tearing ass around the city, all within, really close distance to each other. So it's still going to be a lot of racket.
Yeah. Julie Geese, president of Chicago Street Race, said during a presentation Wednesday to the Chicago Park District Board of Commissioners. Geese's update to commissioners was something of a courtesy call, though commissioners are now in a position to grant or deny permit approval for large events in Chicago's parks. NASCAR's existing contract with the city preempts the Park District's authority. How convenient. Let me repeat that. NASCAR's existing contract that Lori Lightfoot negotiated and granted preempts the Park District's authority. Queen Lori, one of the many gifts that she's left behind along with the casino. The mufflers are new to the circuit in 2023 and will only be used on short tracks and street courses. They were first tested in January and then added to cars for February's clash at the Coliseum held in Los Angeles. Reviews of the mufflers have been mixed. A sizable contingent, scroll down, Ed. A sizable contingent of diehard NASCAR fans hate the mufflers. Elmo Splivin, that can't be his name, can it? On Twitter, shared.
Elmo Splivin?
I'm so grateful to NASCAR for putting mufflers on those loud cars, said no real race fan ever. Well,
yeah.
You don't live downtown in Chicago, Elmo.
Yeah, it's not for you, Elmo. Leon, Elmo. And
there are concerns about the heat the mufflers create in the car's cabins. Jacob, Chief Pond Hockey on Twitter. Dude, NASCAR is going soft, putting mufflers on their cars to make it quieter for the fans. No one goes to NASCAR races to hear quiet cars, idiots. Well, no one in Chicago wanted NASCAR, idiot. No one in Chicago approved this but the mayor, idiot. Meanwhile, the mufflers turn the cars into ovens because the heat has nowhere to go. Ty Gibbons found that out yesterday. So dumb. And we're seeing a picture of what happened to Ty Gibbs with the muffler. While on the flip side, others have said the reduction in decibels is negligible. I love a loud race as long as. Why does this keep popping up? Hang on. Here we go. I love a loud race as long as I've got earplugs. I sort of like my hearing, but nothing beats the feeling of sound rattling your bones at the racetrack. But Millennium Park is never meant to be a racetrack, Dr. Deandra.
Again, it's these NASCAR fans thinking that they're doing the mufflers for them. It's not for you.
Allow me to try something real quick, Ed. I just removed an extension on my browser that I had to download videos quicker for the show. And suddenly I'm seeing my screen work faster. I just want to quickly run a video and see how quickly it loads or if there's a delay. So
yeah, you got to stop putting the Cthulhu worshiping extension onto your Chrome browser because that always mucks up the works, Jerry.
All right, since we're on this topic, let's see how quickly this loads. That's what it was.
That was a bazillion times faster.
That was the one. That's what it was. I just solved the problem, ladies and gentlemen. It's smooth sailing from here on out.
Now I want to know which extension that was so I avoid it at all costs.
Let me look real quickly. As I was talking, I was looking at my Chrome extensions and going down. Well, it's gone now, so I don't remember the name of it. But it was a quick YouTube downloader because I've got a program on my desktop that's Wondershare Uniconverter, which I normally have to copy. I normally have to copy the link in YouTube and then paste it in Wondershare Uniconverter. But that's like multiple steps. So I downloaded this Chrome extension browser that downloaded YouTube, and that's what it was. I just removed it. I'm like, what's video related? Boom, problem solved.
There it is.
Yay! Sorry.
I wonder if that's what was affecting your other video playing situations. We'll have to try those in future
I'm sure it
episodes.
was. I think that's exactly what it was. Because right now I'm clicking on the
Can you play a Chrome tab with sound? That's the test.
Well,
I'm not going to
I'm not going to try that yet.
Yeah,
but
we'll try it again another time.
As I'm clicking in the StreamYard browser, suddenly my comments are popping up, my banners tab is popping up, brand and private chat is opening up with no delays, so we're good. Okay.
Yeah. Speaking of comments, thanks to Laura Baza who tipped us $5 on Rockfin.
Thank you. Any comments over there?
Says thank you for defending public education and educators.
It's our pleasure and privilege and honor. Let's see some of the live chat here on StreamYard. Talking about NASCAR. Yeah, this is a good point, Andrew. It's probably going to wreak havoc on people who have noise sensitivity.
Yeah.
And yes, doesn't. Well, yeah. I mean, we've already got plenty of pollution here in Chicago, but doesn't help. I'm more concerned of the potential of damage to downtown because they're doing everything that they can to service NASCAR by fixing the roads there while not filling the potholes around the rest of the city. And there's going to be wear and tear on the Millennium Corridor lakefront streets that I think is going to cost more money to fix afterwards. And I'm imagining we're going to see a couple of accidents. It's that stopping to watch being frozen by seeing a car accident. What's the expression?
Deer in the headlights?
No. Just I don't know. What do we got here? Yeah, so here's a related thing that I found on social media on Twitter. Look, I've ridden bikes, okay, and I'm a pedestrian, and I'm very conscious of streets and the fact that streets were built and designed for motorized vehicles. Okay? I am getting so tired of watching people on social media who think that the streets have all got to be converted just to serve pedestrians and bicyclists. I see this a lot in support of bike lanes and causing more congestion by bike people who just have this sense of entitlement that everything's supposed to revolve around them. While they don't pay any licensing, they don't pay for licensing or permits for their bicycles. They're not paying taxes like vehicle owners do to use the streets and keep up the infrastructure. They don't follow traffic lights or signals that are meant to safely protect people, right? So this lady on Twitter, Michelle Stenzel, is commenting on what Museum Campus or Millennium Park is going to look like. Balboa Drive in Grant Park will be closed to car traffic from June 19th to July 13th due to the NASCAR race. She says, how about we keep it closed after that and reclaim it as a green space? How about not? How about you've got Maggie Daley Park? How about you've got the park that Daley, you've got Miggs Field, that Daley bulldozed for another park? How about you recognize that we need traffic corridors to get around the city, especially with all the construction going on everywhere, and turning that area into a green space and reclaim it for just pedestrians and bicyclists is the most selfish and entitled proposal that anybody can be stupid enough to make on social media. And scroll up or scroll down, Ed, because I was going to comment. I was going to engage her, but who can reply? Only people Michelle Stanzel follows or mentioned can reply. It's a very one-way conversation there.
Yeah, well, at least she got a reply from Dorval Carter's Ventra card.
What did he say?
He says, why isn't the community given a chance to provide feedback on the opening of the streets to automobiles? Allowing cars in these areas conflicts with the charm and character of this neighborhood. Yeah, whatever, Dorval Carter's Ventra card. It's not like you're ever used.
Do you remember State Street Mall?
No.
Do you remember? You don't remember when Jane Byrne shut down State Street and cars were not allowed to go up and down State Street? This was back in the 1980s. Yeah. It was a fucking disaster.
Yeah, no doubt.
She turned State Street into a mall. I mean, you've already got one-way streets downtown causing problems. When they shut down State Street as a throughway, I think it was from close to Wacker Drive, southward to probably around Washington. It just wreaked havoc. I mean, that's like a short stretch of road that they shut down. But this woman's proposal to shut down all of Millennium Park and turn it into a green space, how are people going to get to the museums, lady?
This is the problem with a lot of times. It's like, they think they're doing good by proposing these things, but failing to realize that what we have to do first is fix public transportation for everybody. If you don't have reliable public transportation to all these places that you want to start denying car traffic to, then you have to start figuring out a new thing to do.
I got into it with No, you did. I got into it with somebody else, and I'm trying to pull up the Twitter, my Twitter profile where I got into it with this guy. So there was a guy on Twitter, and if I can find it, we'll share it. If not, I'll just kind of share what happened. No, I got it going here. Ian McCarthy. That happened when they straightened out the S-curve. LSD used to go on the east side of Soldier Field. All right, so Andrew shares, I remember a bicyclist who ran into me when I was about to turn onto Ashland from Erie. Lots of parked cars at night on Ashland. Bicyclist ran a red light on Ashland going south on the northbound. All right, now I found my Twitter thread that I'm going to share with you in the private chat because you'll probably be able to load it faster for screening purposes here. But give me a second. What else is happening? Why don't you also share what's happening in live chat while I get this thing up? That's what she said.
Okay. I was waiting for a link from you. Okay. What is going on in live chat? I scrolled up too far. All right, we got a lot of people talking back and forth here. Yeah, earmuffs. No, that's about NASCAR. Ian's, yeah, they're talking about how when they straighten the Lakeshore Drive curve. Okay. Andrew says, I remember a bicyclist who ran into me when I was about to turn on to Ashland from Erie. Lots of parked cars at night on Ashland. Bicyclist ran a red light on Ashland going south on the northbound lane.
I don't think I can share my comments because I think the person I commented to blocked me because they're not popping up. People are so thin-skinned on Twitter when you ask them. Okay, so here's what happened. This guy was talking about the unfortunate accidents that happen over on Lakeshore Drive and the pedestrian walkways, right? They happen. You've got asshole motorists, right? It's a problem. But all this guy was talking about was the fact that we need to ticket, fine, and imprison motorists who ignore the traffic signals or are engaged in traffic accidents with pedestrians, which I agree. I mean, obviously there's a problem there. But what I said was, or the logical solution would be to advocate for underpasses or overpasses so pedestrians can safely get across Lakeshore Drive. Wouldn't you agree? And he just went into no. Instead of like creating punitive measures that are going to like enrich our overlords on with tickets and everything else going on, and also save lives. So this guy didn't like the fact that I brought that up, and I said to him, "Do you own a car?" And he said, "Yeah, I own a car like 90% of other cyclists." And I'm like, "You mean the 90% of cyclists that want to like create more lane congestion, shutting down streets and adding more bike lanes across the city?" The solution on Lakeshore Drive, to this lady's point about making it a green space, or I think helping support more safety along Lakeshore Drive where those pedestrian walkways are to get across to the lakefront, overpasses and underpasses. It would create jobs. It would help enhance safety. And I think in the long run, it would certainly provide easier access to the lakefront, which I think a lot of people like this lady who thinks that the entire Millennium Park area should be a green space because of cars is not looking at the bigger picture that there are other solutions than just shutting all the streets down if you want to make it easier and safer for pedestrians to get around.
Yeah, although the latest overpass that they made seemed like a giant superfluous monstrosity. But
which one?
I can't remember what street it was at. Somewhere on the south side. They had just opened one.
Well, we see a couple on South Shore past McCormick Place, and they make a lot of sense. As you're taking Lakeshore Drive southward, a lot of overpasses that bicycles can get across, pedestrians can get across. It's just like, yeah, that's the solution. It makes a lot of sense. And plus, the South Shore lakefront is gorgeous. I think much nicer than the North Side lakefront. But
the 43rd Street pedestrian bridge is what I'm thinking of.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm looking at my Twitter, and whoever this guy was that I was going back and forth with, I think he blocked me because I can't even see my comments on the thread. I guess I was just asking too many logical questions.
This thing.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, that's alongside Lakeshore Drive by Navy Pier, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know if they have a second photo in here, but yeah.
Oh no, that's fine.
Another ribbon cutting for Lori is why I had noticed it originally, and I'm like, why does this thing meander? Why can't they just do a straight line across the thing? I mean, isn't it super inconvenient for people to have to deal with a thing that's going way out of its way to get across Lakeshore Drive?
Yeah,
it just didn't make a lot of sense to me.
I'm going through my Twitter feed, and we forgot to mention that I'm looking for the specific picture that I shared of Dianne Feinstein returning to the Hill. Oh, there it is. Hang on. I'll send you the link so you can pop it up. Hang on. This is my funny bad boy moment on Twitter this week. Oh, come on, just load. This one's worth waiting for, everybody. If you saw Dianne Feinstein return to the Hill after her bout with shingles, here you go, Ed. You want to share this? I have an exclusive photo of Dianne Feinstein returning to the Hill. You got it. There she is in all her octogenarian glory.
Yeah, Doctor Who fans know who that is.
I never watched Doctor Who. I saw this a long time ago and someone referencing Dianne Feinstein. So it was my go-to when I saw that she was return. Well, I'll share another. I mean, maybe you saw some on Twitter, Ed. This is not this, and I'll share one. Okay, let's share a serious one. I'll pass it in the live chat. Going off topic here, but this is not a good look. Defiantly returning to Congress. And I love this guy's comment. The perfect encapsulation of establishment politics in America. A generation drunk on its own power, refusing to relinquish that power, and intent on running the planet into the ground before they leave it. In the nicest way possible. Please just die already. I agree. I agree.
Yep.
All right. So we went through the NASCAR updates.
We did.
Now, can you bring this next video link up?
That one, yes.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen.
Well, here I am.
Yeah, no, that's not
the way you do it. That's the way you do it. This is not the way you do it. Go ahead and run the video.
26-year-old woman is charged in a string of baseball bat attacks this week.
CBS 2's Asal Razai live at 26th in California, where that woman will be in bond court today.
A very bizarre situation here. A young woman attacking other women with a baseball bat. We're talking multiple attacks involving at least 9 victims. This is Denise Solorzano, who was arrested yesterday near Albany.
Also known as Chicago's Batwoman, doing it the wrong way.
Yeah. Kind of, yeah. Damn.
We'll get into it. Yeah,
where a lot of those attacks have taken place. The 26-year-old is facing at least 8 felony counts of aggravated battery, at least 4 of those counts, including a use of a deadly weapon. We'll warn you, the video you're about to see of one of the attacks is disturbing. Caught on a neighbor's home security video on Tuesday, you can see Solorzano there getting out of a white car and attacking that woman with a bat and swinging it at her while there is a stroller with a baby nearby. Police say just 30 minutes earlier, the same suspect attacked 2 other women. The neighbor who shared her footage with us says she could not believe what was happening.
I thought it was a joke at first, and then upon realizing that it wasn't, I was very scared and just sort of in shock.
Lots of eyewitnesses, evidence, and victims in this case. Solorzano is set to appear in bond court. That is at noon today.
Yeah.
Okay. So her mugshot, she looks very happy in her mugshot that we shared at the beginning of it. So here's my thought. Let me also read from the Chicago Tribune article. The headline, as reported by Denise Williams Harris and Madeline Buckley of the Chicago Tribune. Quote, "What would you do if I beat you with this bat?" Chicago woman accused of Northwest Side attacks held on $800,000 bond. In a span of a couple days, a 26-year-old Chicago woman assaulted multiple women at random, at times striking them with the metal bat, lurching her car in their direction and dragging them by the hair, Cook County prosecutors alleged Thursday at a bond hearing. Denise Solorzano is facing multiple felony charges. Sometimes people come before the court with such serious crimes and impose such a serious danger to the community, they must have a substantial bond, Judge Ahmad said. Around 3 p.m. Sunday, Solorzano, while driving a sedan, pulled up to a woman and began to yell about beating her ass. According to Assistant State's Attorney Sarah Dale Schmidt, Solorzano got out of her car, punched the woman until she fell, and dragged her by the hair. Later, prosecutors alleged she ran up to 2 people and said, "What would you do if I punched you in the face?" before attacking them. Okay, so one more. Solorzano later approached 2 adults, including a mother pushing her baby in the stroller, the video of which we saw, and she asked, "What would you do if I beat you with this bat?" and then attacked them with a bat, according to Dale Schmidt. I'm gonna speculate that there might be some mental health issues at play here.
Yeah.
Who does that? That's not anger. That's not an anger issue. That's someone who's like freaking out of control. Yep. Okay. Because this constant I mean, person to person driving up and instigating things so that she could beat them with her bat. I just wonder if there's any history prior to this with this woman that indicates she's had other mental health issues or other incidents that didn't go this far. Yeah, she's batty. Screw Google. Thank you. She is batty, that's for sure. But yeah, okay, she's been charged $800,000 bond, clearly a threat and a menace to people. But I'm really wondering, and what we're going to see as far as what other information comes out regarding her as this case continues, because this.
Are you trying to play a video, Jerry? Because your microphone is muted.
That was Oreo sitting on the keyboard.
Crazy stream cat. I just wanted to say I don't understand why they even set a bond for this woman. She's clearly a danger to herself and others right now. If they weren't going to just deny bail flat out, they should have probably referred her to a psychiatric hold or something.
Yeah. That's what surprises me too. That there's no mention of psychiatric evaluation or mental health issues.
Because think about it, Jerry. If this woman were like super rich and she could have afforded to pay that bail, she'd be out right now. Yeah. And possibly going after more ladies and their kids with a bat.
You bring up an interesting point regarding the bail. I mean, well, look, she's a violent offender. So this is a situation where setting a high bail was important, but it still doesn't speak to the issue regarding her mental health, her mental faculties.
Yeah, well, I'm saying they should have denied bail.
Yeah. I don't think she can raise that bail, though. I mean, I don't know if the article said if she made. I don't think she made.
Besides the point, though.
Get out of there. I'm trying to find another article regarding this to see if there's a mental health angle.
I can't read Tribune articles because they're behind a paywall.
Okay.
So I gotta.
I was trying to load the police mugshot. Oh wait, do I have it? I might have it. Hold on a second.
They had been posting updates. I don't know if I have any of them.
Let me open up my Finder window and see if I can open up the PDF that I downloaded.
Ooh, Smash Mouth is headlining Pierogi Fest. Ooh, that's cool. That's what I'm looking for.
I think I spoke too soon on that issue with my extension because I'm still dealing with some issues here, but oh God. All right, here we go. No, here we don't. Can you load up the next story?
Can you give me a link?
Yeah, it's okay. Here we go. Hang on. Everything comes late when I'm trying to relaunch my Finder. You get out of there. This cat is just in everything. Okay, stand by, everybody. Please stand by in.
Oh, that one.
Okay, now you can hear me. She looks very pleased with herself. That does not look like somebody who's like got all their faculties. The above offender was arrested on May 10th. Baseball bat, blah, blah, blah. As I said earlier, since we're now looking at this, I just want to see if there's a mental health angle to all this.
There is. Someone mentioned she was dealing with schizophrenia. I don't know if it was done in the police report.
Interesting here, Ed, in relation to what we saw happen in New York City last week with Jordan Neely. Nobody mentioned his schizophrenia in the rush to judgment on his previous criminal record or previous altercations with the police. And when you factor in the mental health angle to this, it paints a much more complicated picture. If you're saying you saw somebody mention schizophrenia with this young lady, I don't know, untreated, and you know that there are a lot of people out there suffering from these mental health issues, crises that are not being treated, cared for, noticed, not only to protect themselves, but to protect everybody else. You know, clearly we're back to the whole mental health clinic issue here in Chicago, well, nationwide, the stigma and of the mental health crisis. So I'm looking at the live chat. Let's see here. Any comments on Denise here? No. Anyway, all right, let's move on from that. I wanted to share the picture of her because it's like, that's not, I don't think that's somebody who's like got it all together. And
no, there's definitely some psychological things going on.
Yeah. And I wish the news would also speak to that, but they're not. And the fact that they're not trying to like examine that and report on that is also troubling to me, because it's probably a big part of the story that we can't share because we don't know. All right, so the next story comes from the Chicago Tribune regarding Uber's threat to Chicago.
Cross my fingers. Oh, good. They actually have it loaded in here. Okay, I got it.
I love the way that this article says Uber warns the Democrats mayor-elect if tougher rideshare rules pass, problems might if tougher rideshare rules pass, problems might arise, especially during next year's DNC. Now, let's not forget who was one of the founding members of Uber. Ed, who was that? Stakeholder.
Was it Ram? No, it was one of the Emanuel brothers, wasn't it?
Ari Emanuel.
Ari.
I recall a time before rideshare where I would frequently wonder, why can't I just drive up and down the street and charge people for transporting them places? And obviously we know it has to do with safety, it has to do with insurance, but that's the reason there was such a strict system in place for cab drivers. Yeah. Enter Uber and Lyft, which was literally given a red carpet into Chicago when Rahm Emanuel was mayor. Why? Because his brother Ari was one of the founding members and stakeholders in Uber. Now let's look at Uber's business model. They don't have to own anything. They don't have to own a fleet. They don't have to get medallions for their drivers' cars the way cab companies had to basically prove that they were following the rules regarding insurance and licensure and their drivers having safe driving records. Uber was given a red carpet into the city under Mayor Emanuel and then spread like a virus everywhere else.
Yeah.
So now that more rideshare rules are being put in place because of the unsafe conditions and episodes that have happened because of unregulated rideshare, Uber's going to threaten the city that they're going to show us and make it hard for us if the Democratic National Convention comes to town. I cry bullshit. This comes from Rick Pearson and Jeremy Gorner at the Chicago Tribune. Ride-sharing giant Uber is trying to leverage Chicago's hosting of next year's Democratic National Convention and the city's need for cash to quash pending legislation in Springfield that would put app-based rideshare companies on par with taxis when it comes to the liability of their drivers. Why is that a bad thing? Why does Uber hate its passengers? Why does Uber not think that liability should be enforced with their drivers when it comes to the safety of their passengers? Why, Ari, and the rest of you fucks over at Uber? This whole gig economy thing. This is another example, like one of these tech companies that doesn't have to spend any money on their infrastructure. They create an app, and they let all the wear and tear be on their drivers' vehicles. They pay some support, a little. But the fact that this is a company that doesn't have any major overhead with maintaining a fleet and all the expenses that relate to maintaining that fleet is just more evidence of like how fucked up our economy is with this service-based economy.
Jerry, we can't make investments in safety and that kind of stuff because it cuts into our precious profits.
Their profits, not even their drivers' profits. And that's what's outrageous about this. In separate letters to Democratic National Committee Chairman Jamie Harrison and Mayor-elect Brandon Johnson, the rideshare company warned that the measure would lead to higher cost for riders and a reduced number of drivers due to greater insurance requirements. Hey, do you have high insurance requirements? Right? The rest of us have to carry high insurance requirements. Why shouldn't Uber's drivers, especially in regards to the profits that they're making, off of
we're already getting soaked by ridiculously high prices. These things they call surge pricing from Lyft and Uber. So they're threatening us by making their overpriced rideshare even more overpriced. I already can't afford to use it.
That's what they're threatening. Although I think that they're still cheaper than cabs. But why shouldn't they be on the same level of cabs? Especially given the fact that they don't even own their own vehicles. Uber, the company. Any taxi cab company owns its fleet and has to maintain those vehicles, which is why logically they have to charge a little bit more.
What Chicago really needs is they need a rideshare worker co-op like they have in New York.
I didn't know they had that there.
Yeah, it's I think it's Co-op Drive or something like that. They have their own app and everything. It's like if they can do it in New York, they can do it here in Chicago. And that would start driving the prices down and we'd have real competition. And then Uber and Lyft couldn't pull this crap.
It makes total sense. Get the drivers forming their own co-op, so the overlords at Uber who don't maintain the vehicles or own the vehicles. But you know what's interesting, Ed? I guarantee you that Uber and Lyft would quash that, lobbying their representatives to prevent worker-owned co-op fleets from existing.
Well, of course they're going to fight it, but they can't stop it.
I think that they might be able to in bribing our elected representatives.
Yeah, but everyone who's driving right now on those apps, if they banded together to form a co-op like they did in New York, all they got to do is contact those guys and ask them what did they do and how did they do it.
Yeah. Well, you're right. If they manage to form it in New York, that should be the model that drivers nationwide go to. You're right there. That would lead to reduced city tax revenue and less availability of rides, particularly during next year's national presidential nominating convention. But sponsors of the legislation were undaunted by Uber's tactics. Yeah. They said the measure is aimed at ensuring greater passenger safety by allowing those injured in an Uber or Lyft vehicle to file a liability claim against the company rather than just the driver. So they want to avoid the liability that comes with the enormous profits that they're raking in without even having to maintain a physical fleet.
Yep.
That's
what it is.
That's the board of Uber, including Ram's brother, Ari. At issue is a bill facing a final vote in the House that, if enacted, would on January 1st end an exemption granted in 2015 to rideshare companies from the common carrier civil liability doctrine. The exemption holds transportation companies like taxis to a higher level by requiring them to be held liable for the conduct of their drivers. The current legislation, opposed by Uber, was prompted by an incident in 2017 in which a Chicago Lyft driver allegedly sexually assaulted a female passenger multiple times at knife point. In a 2020 decision, the Illinois First Appellate Court held that Lyft was not liable because rideshare companies were specifically exempted from being considered common carriers. Again, why? Their app is what provides the service. They're supposed to vet the drivers that use their apps. Why would this idiot in the First Appellate Court uphold that ridiculous stipulation that they're exempted?
Well, there's corruption at every level of government, including the judicial branch.
The measure
Not
is
saying that's what it is, but
we can speculate that it is. The measure is an initiative of the Illinois Trial Lawyers Association, a powerful politically active group allied with Democrats. Uber Technologies, Inc.'s Josh Gold, Senior Director of Policy and Communications, sent a letter to the DNC's Harrison earlier this week to advise him, Ed, not strong-arm him, advise him on the legislation, saying, we don't want you caught off guard. Hey, over there in Chicago, we don't want you caught off guard so that you can prepare appropriately for the upcoming convention. Understand what I'm saying? That's exactly what it is. It's a strong-arm tactic.
yeah.
Gold warned the measure could lead to new barriers or eligibility requirement for drivers, which could lead to fewer drivers on the road. Fewer drivers may mean higher wait times and less reliability. On extremely
You mean like that already exists?
On extremely busy days like during the convention, there might not be enough drivers to meet rider demands, like right now.
Well, gee, I guess maybe Brandon would just hop on fixing the public transportation system to make sure it's super reliable so everyone in the Democratic Party can use that and support public transportation like they pretend they do.
Hey, DNC elites, take the fucking bus. How about that? Take the bus, take the train. In a separate letter to the mayor-elect sent Wednesday, Gold said taxes and fees on rideshare bring in around $130 million in revenue to the city of Chicago, some of which is jeopardized by this proposal. Gold contended less drivers and fewer trips means the city could lose tens of millions of dollars in projected revenue from rideshare taxes. Johnson's inauguration is mayor's scheduled for Monday. Uber said in the letters that the firm offered reasonable compromises to the legislation, but lawmakers dispute that. State Senator Robert Martwick, a Democrat from Chicago and the chief Senate sponsor of the measure, said by the reasoning Uber lays out in the letter, the firm was essentially saying, oh gosh, if we can't have bad drivers, then there'll be less drivers. So we need to have bad drivers so that we have enough. I don't think that the people who get in the back of an Uber and entrust their safety to the person behind the wheel want bad drivers, Martwick said. This is about consumer protection. It's not about what makes the most profitable model for Uber. That's for them to figure out how to be profitable. By the way, I also want to say I don't use Uber, I use Lyft. And I will also say in all of my experiences on Lyft, I've never had an issue with the drivers. From my experience, I'm very happy to say rideshare drivers seem very responsible. They seem to have a lot of concern for safety. And I'm glad to see that rideshare drivers are responsible and safe to protect their passengers. That said, in the instance of the potential bad apple or some kind of a horrible accident happening, the company that coordinates this system through their app that's raking in all the cash that a lot of these drivers are barely sustaining themselves on with their shares should be held responsible, period. Yeah. They're the ones who've got the wear and tear in their cars. They're the ones
or they should get a way smaller cut.
Yes.
Because either the drivers should be able to support a reasonable insurance protection based on a decent income, or the company that should be handling their fares should be listed as a common carrier, or they should be taking a share of the responsibility.
Yeah, clearly. State Representative Jennifer Gong-Gershowitz, a Glenview Democrat, and by the way, yeah, Joy, DNC elites can also use limos. And Ian, to your comment, laugh out loud, take the bus. They're already afraid of downtown. I know that. I was being sarcastic. I was basically saying, F all of you. Do what the rest of us have to do to get downtown if you don't have a car.
Yeah, or what they'll do is they'll just hire those charter tour buses, those little party bus things.
Yeah.
And they'll just have a bunch of those. I mean, those services exist in the city. So they make different arrangements that don't involve rideshare. They don't care. They got the money for that.
Andrew shares, I roomed with a full-time Uber driver during the first year of the pandemic. He was struggling to get fares. He was stuck having to rent a car for $1,000 a month to continue after certain circumstances.
That stinks. Yeah, it sucks if you have to be leasing or renting a car in order to do it, because you're never going to get ahead that way.
Well, I understand some of these rideshare companies lease cars to their drivers also, and probably rake in a really tidy profit from that, on top of what they're already charging them for the rides that they're driving around, the passengers are driving around. Okay, State Representative Jennifer Gong-Gershowitz, a Glenview Democrat and the bill's main sponsor in the House, said Uber's argument to maintain the common carrier exemption flies in the face of arguments about the free market. Uber and Lyft have that special exception only because they were granted that in statute, Gong-Gershowitz said. To me, removing it puts everyone on the same playing field. If approved by the House, the legislation would have to be signed by Governor J.B. Pritzker to become law. The Illinois General Assembly is scheduled to end its session next week. Supporters said other states have considered app-based ride shares as common carriers and requiring more stringent liability coverage, including California, Maryland, Massachusetts, and Georgia. Uber disputed that, saying only Maryland has such a requirement. Just scumbags, man. Just scumbags at this company. They don't give a shit about the safety of their riders, is what it comes down to, because it cuts into their profits.
Yeah,
on expenses that they don't even have to put out maintaining the vehicles.
Yeah, it parallels the railroad stuff. It's like, you got all those derailments happening. I think the last I saw, someone said they're having 4 to 5 derailments per day. I'm like, why don't you care about making sure that the stuff you're transporting actually gets there in one piece? Why is that not an issue for you? Why is safety something you can just brush off? How do you circle that square? How do you have that type of moral immorality?
Rules for thee and not for me, Ed. It's as simple as that. It's a big club and we aren't in it. And that club means that they can routinely ignore the rules, ignore the safety, ignore the regulations that are put in place that all of us are supposed to follow, right? To provide, to basically provide safe circumstances for everybody. And corporations and these big companies, they don't think that they're accountable to that. Never have been, still don't want to be. All right. Has your catalytic converter been stolen?
I don't think so.
If so, you might want to file a claim with Cook County Sheriff Dart in regards to this stash that was found in Worth Township, as reported by the Chicago Tribune and Mike Nolan of the Daily Southtown. More than 600 catalytic converters found on property of Worth Township man who faces charges. This has been a problem for long. This only came to my attention, like I think in the past 2 or 3 years, catalytic converters being stolen, which has apparently reached epidemic proportions because of the rare metals that are used in the manufacture of catalytic converters. They get stolen, they get salvaged, the precious metals are sold off, and those whose cars have been afflicted with a missing catalytic converter, it's very, very expensive to replace the catalytic converter, which leads to higher insurance rates. I'm sure insurance denials. My cousin had her catalytic converter stolen, and I think she was looking at having to buy a new car. I don't know why a catalytic converter would force somebody to buy a new car instead of just replace it. But I think you have some insight.
Lately, the problem was the supply chain.
Okay.
People were getting their catalytic converters stolen, and then they bring them to the shop, and the guys at the shop said, we can't get a replacement for you because they either can't make them or they can't get them to us. I don't know if that is getting better or not. I hear the supply chain is loosening up in some areas. I know egg prices are supposed to start dropping again. We'll see if that actually happens.
I priced eggs, and I was at the grocery store. What are they, like $3.50 for a dozen? Is what I saw.
Yeah, lately that's about what I saw. Yeah.
And what did they use? I never paid attention to egg prices because I thought eggs
most people would buy them. They were like $1 a dozen a lot of times when they're on sale, or you maybe $1.79 is what it used to be for a long time.
Okay, so perhaps the cost of groceries is not affecting me as much as other people, but when I noticed that they were $3.50, and I'm thinking I can afford that, I didn't realize how low they were. That it's
that's just for the regular commercial eggs. Like some people would buy the higher grade eggs, like the free range eggs or whatever, and those were always more expensive. But when just the regular grocery store eggs got above $3, $4, $5 for a dozen, it's out of control.
Okay. I understand that. I know a lot of people are facing other hardships, financial hardships, that it does make a difference. So getting back to the catalytic converter story, a Worth Township man faces criminal charges after Cook County Sheriff's Police found more than 600 catalytic converters on his property, Sheriff Tom Dart said Thursday. Dart said it was among the largest such seizures of that vehicle part, which is part of the vehicle's exhaust system in the state. Mm-hmm. Ramsey Sandoka, 40 of the 6,000th block of 128th place in unincorporated Worth Township, is charged with possession of a stolen vehicle, a felony, as well as misdemeanor charges, including selling and purchasing catalytic converters, according to Dart's office. Sandoka was released on his own recognizance following an initial court appearance Thursday, according to the sheriff's office.
Why?
Why was you 600 catalytic converters in his backyard? Why do you release him on his own recognizance? Come on. Catalytic converters are valuable to thieves because they contain small amounts of precious metals such as palladium and platinum, which can be extracted and sold, according to the sheriff's office. Citing data from insurer State Farm, the office said nationwide catalytic converter thefts have risen about more than 400% since 2019, and that Illinois ranks in third in number of thefts. Police said an investigation got underway after officers responded Sunday to a burglar alarm at the Worth Township address. There was no response when officers knocked on the door of the home, and when officers walked along the property's perimeter to ensure the home was secured, they spotted through the backyard fence what appeared to be hundreds of catalytic converters in a metal crate and others stacked along a fence. Sheriff's police, it's like they hit the mother lode. Sheriff's police said an investigation showed Sandoka owned the property. He owns a towing company. But investigators found no records that he or his business have a license to buy, sell, recycle, or possess the converters, Dart's office said. A search warrant executed Tuesday by Sheriff's Police and the Illinois Statewide Auto Theft Task Force found 612 catalytic converters on Sandoka's property. Sandoka could not produce documentation to investigators to show he owned the vehicle parts or they had a license to buy, sell, recycle, or possess them. I wonder why. And Sandoka was placed under arrest with charges being approved Wednesday by the Cook County State's Attorney's Office. Attempts to reach Sandoka for comment Thursday were unsuccessful. The catalytic converters found were in a variety of shapes and sizes and in various stages of rust, with some having little or no rust, indicating they were recently cut from vehicles, Dart's office said. Dart's office last year rolled out a program to try and combat catalytic converter thefts. We made fun of this because it was such a ridiculous initiative. At locations in the Chicago area, drivers could bring their vehicles to have the converters spray painted using a paint tolerant to high temperatures. Are they, though? Are they really?
No.
Are they really that tolerant to the high temperatures for this performance?
Paint? No,
spray?
probably not.
Yeah. Converters were marked CCSO for the sheriff's office along with a star.
Uh-huh.
The idea is the logo will make thieves think twice about swiping the parts, as it could make them harder to sell. I want to know how many of these catalytic. I don't see any paint on any of those catalytic converters, nor any CCSO with the sheriff's star on them. I wonder how many they recovered with the paint, the spray painted catalytic converters showing those safety measures.
You would think that if they were going to tout that maybe had worked, that they would have shown a crate with a couple of those in it, but no, nope. So good news. Kathy Powers says that Tony's has eggs for 99 cents a dozen. So what probably happened was, because eggs are too damn expensive, nobody was buying them. Then they have a surplus and they go on sale. And then, because the supply chain finally started picking up for the eggs after they had to deal with those issues with having to, euthanize a bunch of those chickens, that the ones that they have now are finally laying eggs. And now they got a huge monster glut of eggs that are coming into the markets now. So I don't know. Why don't you sell those to bakeries and stuff? They need them anyway. Don't let that stuff go to waste.
Ian shares a replacement for a catalytic converter is about $900 to $1,000.
Yeah. And
Jimmy, in regard to the eggs, she just looked up eggs at her local grocery store, $6.59 for a dozen over here. Well, you also do live in California, honey.
Yeah.
That's also, I think, everything costs more. But I take your point. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Although hopefully those prices will start dropping for you soon.
Yeah. All right. Let's go to our updates. It's 11 o'clock. I want to try to get out of here soon. We reported on this, the migrant crisis down in South Shore. Residents are now going to file a lawsuit against the city over the plans to use the high school as a migrant shelter. We will fight as long as we need to, one says. Look, we covered at the top of the show all these unused beds and resources from the COVID pandemic that the state and the city have amassed that they're not using, that they could use in other empty buildings, as opposed to this high school that is at the center of this controversy. As Chicago struggles to house migrants in homeless shelters and police stations, prompting the outgoing mayor to declare a state of emergency, some neighborhood residents have expressed disappointment with being left out of the decision-making process. In the South Shore neighborhood, tempers are flaring and tensions are rising after the city decided to transform a shuttered high school into a shelter for asylum seekers. I'm going to just jump ahead. We know what the circumstances are. We know what the story is. Some are resorting to suing the city. The South Shore community is a community that has been predominantly comprised of the descendants of once enslaved African Americans. J. Darnell Jones, one of the plaintiffs, said at a news conference Thursday afternoon outside the former South Shore High School. The same federally backed tactics that proved detrimental to thriving Black communities of the past under the guise of eminent domain are being used to house asylum seekers in the heart of our community without our permission nor our agreement. The lawsuit seeks temporary injunctive relief against the use of the high school as a temporary respite center to move hundreds of migrant families out of police stations. The city is turning many public facilities, Chicago Park District field houses. That just blows me away. Park District field houses as a legitimate way of housing asylum-seeking migrants. Field house. It's just crazy, man. And even a shuttered Streeterville hotel into a respite center. The Streeterville hotel makes sense. They should be looking for more shuttered hotels instead of public schools that they've shut down and also used as police training centers. That's what they were using that high school for before the migrants came in. But I am a little bit disappointed at, you know what? I think if more people in South Shore, and I've said this with, you know what? Bring more migrants to the north side too. I'm not going to be a NIMBY. House them wherever there are the resources, and if there are resources on the north side, put them there too. But what bugs me personally about this this division on the South Shore, Ed, is that instead of vilifying the migrants, why not propose solutions or ideas? Why isn't the community saying, why don't they put them here? Why don't they put them there? So many people in South Shore are already helping these migrants in this crisis because public resources are so far and few in between. The idea of filing a lawsuit, I don't know, man. I think that if I lived in this neighborhood and it would bug me that much that this school was being converted into a migrant shelter, I would be pointing to other solutions rather than deciding to vilify the migrants and file a lawsuit. Yeah. And I guess a lawsuit's going to have some teeth, but it just seems so unfriendly. That might sound silly, but it just sounds so cruel to the migrants who've come here seeking asylum. For people in this, now, granted, I understand they're overwhelmed in the fact that the mayor didn't put migrants on the north side of the city, and I think we know why that is. The South Shore shouldn't bear the brunt of solving this crisis, but I don't know, man. This lawsuit and the animosity down there just doesn't feel right. What do you think?
I think I'm passing out because it's past my bedtime. But we've talked about this a lot. Put people in homes. Put them up in the hotels. Why is this so hard?
Well, the article goes on to state, to your point, a common frustration among South Shore residents is an apparent prioritization of migrants over the needs of families who've lived in their underserved neighborhoods and nearby communities for generations. Granted, I get it. Absolutely right on that. There are people leaving the city of Chicago and businesses leaving the city of Chicago. We cannot afford to have $51 million spent, referring to the $51 million in budget surpluses that the city council just approved to funnel towards migrant services. That doesn't mean that no money should be spent, but $7,000 per person per month is excessive. Yeah, in light of the fact that regular residents in that community haven't been served the same way. Or homeless people. Anyway, you can read the rest of the story in our show notes at the linked article at the Chicago Tribune. We're going really, really late. There's an article regarding, I am going to go into this briefly. It's one of our second to last stories. Palos Paul is back in the news, and so are leaders in the South Side Black community. And an analysis by tribe. Vallis flooded Black Chicago with campaign cash, but Black voters didn't follow. Great article here speaking to the question of why did all these Black leaders decide to fall behind Vallis? It was a financial opportunity there. Does it make them sellouts? It's not my place, I guess, to speculate or opine. But in the month leading up to the April 4th mayoral runoff, Theo Hardiman Jr., a native of the Austin community on Chicago's west side, was paid to work for former Chicago Public Schools CEO Paul Vallis's unsuccessful campaign for mayor. Hardiman told the tribe that he learned about the opportunity from a longtime friend named Napoleon and decided to join. For $25 an hour, Hardiman said, for $25 an hour, Hardiman and numerous other paid campaign workers operated out of a field house on the west side. The 24-year-old is the son of Theo. I'm sorry?
You said field house. Field office.
Office. Sorry, I was thinking of the first article. I was thinking of the field houses in the migrant story. And I'm trying to get through this fast because I know it's past your bedtime. The 24-year-old is the son of Theo Hardiman Sr., a longtime community organizer who became notable for his anti-violence work in the late 1990s with Ceasefire, now called Cure Violence. He's also the executive director of Violence Interrupters, an organization that develops relationships with community leaders and neighborhood residents and aims to reduce violence using tools such as de-escalation and mediation. Hardiman Sr. ran for governor in Democratic primaries in 2014 and 2018. Hardiman Jr. and other Vallis campaign workers primarily distributed literature and lawn signs. While working, he said he got to speak with residents and learn about their varying points of view about Vallis and Cook County Commissioner Brandon Johnson. Some who he came across were Vallis supporters, while others supported. Why did my page just jump?
While others supported Johnson, who ultimately won the runoff and carried every one of the city's majority black wards.
My page is, I'm not even moving my cursor, and my page is jumping around, and I'm losing track of where I'm at.
I've got it. If you want me to read the rest.
Well, I don't want to have to read the whole article. I was going to jump ahead after I made focused on specific points. What was the residents of South and West Side wards?
Every one of the city's majority black wards.
Okay. In the final push for votes ahead of the runoff, Vallis spent more than $600,000 to hire hundreds of people like Hardiman Jr. to go get out the vote in the black community. Payments to such workers were listed under the catch-all category services on campaign expenditure reports. A tribe analysis found much of what Vallis spent on individual services went to residents of South and West Side wards. I wonder why that was. Because he knew he was never going to win it, but he decided to pay campaign workers down there to try and talk him up as if he was going to do anything for that side of the city. Okay, so let me scroll through because I don't want to go through, point by point, paragraph by paragraph. Now, yes, I did believe in Vallis's policies, Hardiman said. Basically, I was seeing how many people. Yes, I did believe in Vallis's policies. See what I'm doing here, Ed? I did believe in Vallis's policies, Hardiman said. Basically, I was seeing how many people endorsed him, and the people that endorsed him were some of the people in my community who held high political standing. Oh, you mean the sellouts?
Yeah.
You mean, as we've heard people express, the race traders, the class traders, such as businessman and two-time mayoral candidate Willie Wilson, who came in fifth in the February 20th election before endorsing Vallis in the runoff. And Willie Wilson's a Republican. Hardiman Jr. voted for Vallis in the April 4th runoff. And ultimately, he said he believed in Vallis and his vision for Chicago, but admitted that he didn't know much about Johnson. Well, why didn't you learn more about Johnson before you started believing in Paul Vallis's policies and opportunities that he presented you?
Well, because money talks?
Pretty much, at the expense of how that neighborhood would have been further abandoned. Vallis's policies. Veteran journalist and political consultant Delmarie Cobb characterized Vallis's spending of hundreds of thousands of dollars on the South and West Sides as an attempt to buy the black vote, because that's exactly what it was. Absolutely, that's what he was trying to do. And people were lining up to get the money because they saw this as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, Cobb said. He had all his money to burn, and they were lining up to make sure they were on the receiving end. Who? Hardiman Jr., Amara Enya's brother, I forgot his first name, former mayoral candidate Jamal Green.
Who?
Who? According to numerous black people who spoke to the tribe throughout the 2023 municipal election cycle, Vallis's campaign ran counter to the needs and interests of the black community in Chicago. They cited his history of privatizing schools in addition to his tough-on-crime campaign rhetoric and endorsement from the Fraternal Order of Police. How could T.O. Hardiman Jr. miss that? It was only all over the news. It was only all over social media. Hardiman Sr. told the tribe that he never endorsed Vallis, although he was approached by friends who wanted him to discuss the campaign. They reached out to me and asked me what my thoughts were. He said, I said, no, I can't do it myself, but I'll allow my son to make the money. He had to pay his bills like a lot of young people that worked for Paul Vallis. Is a black person a sellout because they supported Paul Vallis? He asked rhetorically. He said no.
Okay.
Are we in a position to judge, Ed, because we're white guys? Are we going to get that criticism? We don't have a right to an opinion here?
Hey, it's up to you and your own personal moral standards as to whether you think that you're going to get that money.
He's a sellout. They were all sellouts. They were betraying their community, knowing what Paul Vallis was, knowing how he was going to further abandon that side of the city for privatization interests. To claim ignorance, it's an insult. It's an insult, and it's dishonest. It's a lie.
Okay.
The word sellout has a storied history in the black community. The most straightforward meaning of the word refers to a black person who behaves in a way that entirely betrays the interests of the black community. But Damon Williams, a movement builder, organizer, and co-director of the Let Us Breathe Collective, said that when it comes to Vallis's campaign, it's more nuanced. How? How is it more nuanced? Some people who aligned themselves with Vallis, whether black elected officials, other political leaders who endorse him in the race, political hopefuls, does that ring a bell with anybody? Who? Or everyday black folks who worked on the campaign, knowingly or unwittingly participated in a campaign that undermined black progress, Williams said. I don't think if it weren't for those financial incentives that black elected leaders would, from their heart or from the position that they're grounded in, would be supporting someone like Paul Vallis, Williams said. Well, kudos to you. So I think the language of sellout kind of diminishes it, or is something we can kind of scoff off, he said. I don't understand. He's kind of like talking out of both sides of his mouth. He's clearly shedding light on the fact that the financial incentives basically encouraged people to turn their heart on the position of helping the community. So if that's what they were doing, why wouldn't you use the language sellout? Why would that diminish what they're doing? So
well, maybe they feel more comfortable if we just called it compromising your principles.
We all have to make compromises in our work life often, Williams said. I would not support it. I don't think it's a good way to engage the community, but I also want to make space for survival and hustle at the expense of everything that you needed done. How is making space for survival and hustle not going to enrich only a few at the expense of the collective?
Survival and hustle, that's bootstrap capitalism speak. It's ingrained in some people because they've had it so bad for so long that they pick yourself up by your bootstraps is all they've ever known.
And fuck everybody else. What was it Captain Spock said? The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few.
Yeah, and yet they went back to the Genesis planet to go get him anyway.
Well, that was Kirk, and we know that Kirk operates clearly from emotion, not logic.
That's true.
All right. So survival and hustle. Black elected officials and black community leaders who endorsed Vallis have more power, clout, and money than the average community resident. That's why I think this whole framework is clearly unacceptable. It's one thing not to be aligned with Brandon Johnson, Williams said. You did not have to make an endorsement. So when you use the language of a sellout, I think it gets weighted. But what is seen is that people's names and support and presence and organizing capacity is for sale. Hardiman Sr. disagrees. People have the right to vote for the candidates of their choice, he said. The reality is that there are really no sellouts in politics, like his son.
Are you kidding?
People choose sides all the time. That's where more political education is necessary, Williams said. I can't be mad at people for taking work or getting wages when those are so desperately needed, but I do think we need to challenge how conservative policies can be absorbed through social class. Here was an idea. Well, you know what the issue was, Ed? I guess Johnson's campaign wasn't paying as much as Vallis's campaign. Because Johnson's campaign wasn't running without a budget, right? But we know that Paul Vallis had more money by virtue of all of the companies and shadow donors that were throwing money at him so that they could basically co-opt the city for privatization agenda. Quote, I make no apologies, attributed to Black Chicago politicians. Endorsements began flowing in for the runoff within days of the February 20th general election. On March 2nd, longtime Illinois Secretary of State Jesse White became the first Black political leader to endorse Vallis.
Oh, you had it right the first time.
Thank you. I believe that Paul Vallis is the right person for the job, White said at the time. Does it strike you? Does it strike you how his name is just like the perfect
There's irony there.
Irony there? Yes. Thank you. Thank you. So I make no apologies for my endorsement. Some members of Chicago's Black Aldermanic Caucus, including Alderperson Sophia King, who? Roderick Sawyer, who? Michelle Harris, Anthony Beal, David Squeaky Moore, Derek Curtis, Walter Burnett, and Emma Mitz rallied behind Vallis's bid for mayor. Burnett and Sawyer made their endorsements public, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, this is a great article at Tribe. Yeah. And if you could scroll down, we could see the picture of all of these sellouts.
Yeah,
that's why I call them that, and that's what they were.
That was another reason I was kind of surprised why Burnett is going to be vice mayor, because he supported Vallis.
Well, as we also saw that Brandon Johnson's going to be allowing holdovers from Lightfoot's administration. What did we say earlier in the show? 2 or 3 months for them to prove themselves. He's definitely showing that he has a forgiving nature and willingness to let people prove themselves. We'll see how it all plays out.
Give him enough rope.
Yeah. Ooh, that's not, maybe that. See, my mind goes to lynching there, so I don't know if that was a good.
No, that's not at all.
Okay.
That is not at all where I was going with that.
All right. Anyway, it goes on to all the retired black politicians, how much Vallis contributed to all the aldermanic hopefuls. An abundance of capital is necessary to run successful campaigns. Cobb said both mayoral candidates secured significant contributions when the field was narrowed down to a head-to-head race. Vallis raised $19 million, more than half of which came from just 44 people or organizations whose contributions were in the six-figure range. Vallis's campaign spent the cash nearly as quickly as it was raised. Vallis was spending an obscene amount of money, Cobb said. Despite Vallis's campaign donating more than $230,000 in campaign contributions to members of the CABC who endorsed him, their constituents voted overwhelmingly for Johnson. We saw that in the election mapping, ward to ward. Yeah. Certain aldermen supported Johnson and their wards did not. They were like, no, fuck you. We know what's going on. Vallis did not win a single ward in which a black alderperson had endorsed him. Support for Johnson in those wards was over 50% in most cases. Community actors or grifters, the article goes on to question. Vallis used his campaign dollars to make inroads into the black community. He did so by employing support from community organizers like J. Mal Green, former Chicago 911 dispatcher Keith A. Thornton Jr. and political consultant, here he is, Chimaobi Enya. I think it's pronounced Chimaobi, who claimed to have connections to black leaders, churches, and communities on the south and west sides to turn out the black vote on April 4th. And I still love the headline. If you scroll down, community actors or grifters. The 2023 mayoral election was community activist J. Mal Green's first official run for elected office. He briefly ran for mayor in 2019 before dropping out of the race and endorsing Lori Lightfoot's candidacy that same year. You see, this is why I was going here with this article, Ed, to make amends for my prior endorsement of Mr. Green. Green received about 2% of the votes citywide in the February 28th general election. In the days after, he announced that he was weighing who to endorse in the race. We covered this. It was like he basically made his thinking period this long waiting game on social media. It was like clickbait every time he was thinking about who he was going to endorse. I must be careful and listen to both candidates than to just support someone because of emotions or symbolism. Our future is on the line. The communities you never been to is suffering and their future is on the line, Green tweeted on March 2nd in response to a question from another Twitter user. Then on March 15th, Green announced that he would be backing Vallis in the runoff. In a since-deleted tweet, Green wrote, "Today I'm proud to endorse Vallis because I don't believe in political spin. I believe in results. Candidates must commit for accountability." He has since deleted the tweet. During an Instagram Live event on March 15th, Green said, "No one owns me. Paul Vallis ain't got enough money to give me. A job ain't enough money in there for me. I got my own everything so I can and do what I want."
And then they gave him money.
Illinois State Board of Elections filings reveal that Peace and Paradise, an LLC with ties to Green, received $28,460 from Vallis for campaign services on March 14th, the day before his endorsement announcement. Mm-hmm. Reached by phone, Green declined to comment on this story. It goes on to Operation Push Gate Crashers. It goes on to, it's very lengthy and I think very thorough. Church collection plates. Goes on to, it's a very comprehensive article. But that's why I wanted to share this Trive article and bring everybody's attention to it. It's linked in the show notes. My favorite meme on Twitter, Ed, from election concession night, when Paul Vallis got up there looking absolutely relieved that he didn't win. Yeah. There was an image of Jamal Green behind him, very stone and stoic faced. And someone posted on Twitter that picture with the words, "Fuck around and find out."
Yes.
It was hilarious. Hilarious. So that's the end of our mayoral cycle, everybody. It's a brand new day on Monday, and we will be covering we will be covering the swearing in on Tuesday night's show. Two other things at the end of the show here. As Ed mentioned earlier, we have finally created our brand, and actually I did. We haven't. I mentioned it, and Ed took the initiative to create it. The Brandon Bingo card, which we hope we will be able to start Xing squares out in relation to all of the policy platform initiatives that Brandon Johnson claimed he was going to initiate. So let's go through the card real quick. Oh, well, I guess it's not just about his policies. Also, it's about what to expect.
What do we expect to happen in the first 30 days? I didn't have a full list, and I didn't get a chance to get a hold of the stuff that Jerry was taking notes of. So I was kind of like, okay, I got to fill 25 squares.
I only had 3 notes, but I think you may have remembered them.
Okay. And if you want to download your own bingo card with the different results in different locations, here's the link in the live chat here. I mean, it's kind of hard to. It'll be on the screen if you want to hit the pause button and type those in. Otherwise, you can check the live chat later after the thing is over and just find the link and load up your own card. But here's card number 4. And I put fix the potholes in the middle.
Because that is Ed's absolute focus in all of the infrastructure that needs to be addressed.
Yeah, so that's kind of the gimme square. Everybody gets the middle.
That's Ed's ground zero right in the middle. So you want to go through them really quickly? Just read them off?
Sure. Let's just go from left to right and then down the rows. The first one on the top left I have says start Council Wars 2.
We're going to X that the week he takes office.
Probably, yeah. Next to that says help the homeless, restore mental health clinics, eats Chicago pizza. I didn't specify which kind of Chicago pizza because I'm not particular. It's like there's going to be a photo op and you're going to see Brandon Johnson chowing down on some pizza, and it's going to be interesting to see if his first photo op for Chicago pizza is thin crust or deep dish.
Ian McCarthy opines that card is not hitting bingo.
Migrant support.
I think we'll see that in the first month.
Yeah. Chairs approved by city council. That's those appointments.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one that's going to go either way. It depends on how much of a stink they make on the first city council meeting. Name drop Harold.
First month,
you think? Okay.
Parking. I would say we're going to hear that one. We'll be able to X on Monday.
Yeah, you think? Okay. Parking ticket amnesty.
Yeah, I don't think that's ever going to be X'd out.
Just a guess. Undo a Lightfoot policy.
First month.
Public banking.
Never.
End red light cameras.
Ooh. That's a real unknown.
Replace lead water pipes.
I think that's going to be within the first 6 months.
I think he's gonna try and make some headway on it. I think it's going to take a while. And the middle one, of course, says fix the potholes. Next to that, restore basketball hoops. There's a bunch of basketball backboards, like at a lot of the schools, where they just took them down for whatever security or safety reasons, or from the lockdown and never put them back up. And that's probably contributing to some of the issues with the teens deciding to just make appearances elsewhere.
Yeah.
Not saying it's the whole solution. I'm just saying it's one thing. Divert CPD funds.
I'm hoping we see that in the first year somehow.
Fix CTA schedule. Fire Dorval Carter.
I think that's something within the first 6 months that's possible.
End civil asset forfeiture. I don't know if that's going to happen.
Yeah.
But it'd be nice if it did. Because that's just hurting communities. I mean, like if the police decide that they can just take your stuff, regardless of whether it's stuff that you took from someone else or not, you know, it's not good when they can just take your stuff.
Send Arwoody packing.
Yeah, I don't think that's happening right away. It sounded to me like he's going to let her...
yeah, she's in that 3-month grace period.
Yeah. Food access equity. That has to do with the grocery stores and the food deserts and all that other stuff.
Excuse me.
Okay. Plow the sidewalks.
He brought that up, didn't he? I think he proposed that.
Was he on board with that?
Okay. I think he was, and we were talking about in a prior show how that would help create jobs and also help a lot of the people, a lot of our seniors who don't have people around them helping them out.
Ditch the boot. That's a real punitive thing. It's like, you know, how are people gonna earn money to pay off whatever tickets they owed because of the boot you put on there if they can't drive to the job that they have the car for?
That's right.
Fund public schools, because that's it. They need resources. That's part of the problem.
I think that's going to be a gimme, Ed, given the fact. Yeah. I mean, that's a no-brainer.
That's true.
That's not. I was going, with alter the NASCAR deal. I think he's going to. I think he's going to alter it. I think that he's going to give NASCAR notice next year and say, "You're out of here."
And he's going to do it in a Darth Vader voice.
I am
altering the deal.
Pray I don't alter it any further.
Perhaps you feel you're being treated unfairly. And then an executive order. He's probably going to do a bunch of those.
I would say maybe with the migrant crisis is where I would speculate that.
Yeah, I wasn't more specific with any of those because I really didn't. I haven't had my complete radar on all of his plans yet, but we'll get a better idea, I guess, Monday or whenever the first city council meeting is. So yeah, there's our bingo card.
Our last story, we usually try to close the show on an interesting story, a hopeful story, an optimistic story. I just found this as being kind of this qualifies as an interesting story. Okay. This comes to us from Courthouse News Service. Came across my radar. 7th Circuit upholds Chicago's public nudity law. A divided 7th Circle panel dismissed a woman's appeal of Chicago's public nudity ordinance that bars women from exposing their breasts in public. But one judge said going bare-breasted could be considered a political protest. So, ladies, more political protest. Show us the boobies.
Yeah, well, the problem is that they're upholding the law, though, so they can't. Yeah. Apparently, they can in New York. So, I mean, if they would just use that as a precedent next time they try and challenge this, maybe, or they might need to appeal to a higher court.
I think this is actually an update because I think we did cover when this was being challenged. I want to say last year. I recall we talked about it.
Oh, I'm looking at the date on this article. It says 2017.
Oh, wait a minute. Why did this pop up recently?
You know, I might have accidentally come upon it.
You did share it. That's right. I didn't look at the date. Okay, so you know what? Let's look. Okay, so let's look for an update.
Let's see if we can find an update to this.
You shared an old article in the Slack.
Yeah, sorry. Chicago Public Nudity
News, anytime, past year. It was the Evanston public nudity law we reported on.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah. So the most recent articles I'm seeing are from 2022. Okay, so you know what? That's an old story. I thought it just happened, and it's from 2017.
Well, why the hell I found that?
That torpedoes the end story of the show.
Oh, yeah, the Evanston one was from last year.
We both hold blame, Ed for not checking the date and me
fault.
for not checking the date. I saw it. I'm like, ooh, juicy story until we just saw the date.
I don't understand why I didn't see the date on that sooner. Sorry, everybody. Clothing laws by state. Maybe that'll have the information that I require.
It's a dead story. Forget it. We're both tired. It's 11:34. We're at 3 hours and 23 minutes. We started late. It's past Ed's bedtime. I'm exhausted because of the tech difficulties that stressed me out early in the show. So why don't we just call it a night, everybody? We will be back next Tuesday. We actually have a guest coming on the show next Tuesday, and I don't have the information in front of me. Kira set the guest up. She is an author. And Ed, I barely had time to look at the information.
I didn't get a chance to look at it, and I don't know if she's confirmed yet because her emails were bouncing on us. But I believe Veronica Areola, who is one of the 66 newly elected district council members, who's going to be working with the new police district council thing, whose name I can't remember what it's called. And so she was going to come on and talk about that. Also talk about her children's book that is called J is for Justice.
And we will also be recapping the mayoral inauguration on Monday.
Yeah.
So that's it, everybody. Hope you got your $1 or $5 worth if you're a Patreon here tonight.
Yes.
Ed, thanks for co-hosting. Let's see if I can guide us out of here without any technical glitches. Anything you want to share before we depart and you go to Slumberland?
There was one thing I wanted to share one last time.
And it looks like this is something I'll be sharing one last time.
What a fucking bitch, am I right?
All right. That's our show, everybody. Please tune in next Tuesday when Ed is guiding the bus into the ditch.
Yes.
Until then, thank you, Ed, to everybody else out there in the audience and the live chat who contributed to tonight's show. Thank you so much for joining us. As we go into the weekend, as always, stay safe, watch out for each other, be vigilant, and remember, if it's happening on the streets, you hear about it here on Chicago Corner. Stay safe, Chicago.
Ah! Oh, fuck this noise, man. Get out.
back until you've redeemed yourselves.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.
The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent. If you would like to be a guest on Chicago Corner, please email our host, Jerry, at chicagocorner.tv.